Hello guys, this is Dark Fox Sage 2 and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Naruto's Drunken Night with Hanabi Changed His Destiny Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. After a night of steamy Bo Chica Wow Wow, had to drop the sexual reference to keep this story kid-friendly, Hanabi Hyuga and Konohamaru found themselves having ordered a little mini-me from Stork's baby delivery service. The expected delivery date 40 weeks. There are no exchanges, returns, or refunds on this order. The problem? There are many problems. Let us review. Hanabi Hyuga has the most overprotective father in the world when it comes to his baby's virginity. This is the same father who is Konohagakure's spymaster, heads the most ruthless banking clan in the known world, rumored to castrate guys with a single strike, and the only person that put Naruto Uzumaki in the hospital for over a week. All fathers of teenage girls are nasty. But Heishi could give Shriek lessons in being an ogre. In an attempt to retrieve Hanabi's stuffed bunny, Konohamaru rabbit-napped all the bunnies from the preteen girls of the Hyuga clan. 67 preteen girls and their mothers are borrowing cheese graters and meat tenderizing mallets from the Hyuga kitchen to rub and smash upon the rabbit-nappers' happy parts. Konohamaru unknowingly stole Heishi's spy lists in a poor attempt to divert attention from the rabbit nappings. That ensured that Anbu and the Hokage will want Konohamaru's head on a platter. Konohamaru and Hanabi pranked the village, pulled down the village's pants down below its knees, and violated it in a way that got the entire village screaming, "I am an uke." Among the most notable pranks pulled were as follows. Shaving Tora, the dynamo's wife's cat. Dressing victims like mimes and locking them in real glass boxes. Causing several hundred feral cats to attack the Inuzuka clan nin hounds to the point where the hounds cannot return work without extensive canine psychotherapy. Switching out the stocks of every clothing store in the village with green spandex leggings. Convincing Maida Guy and Rock Lee that the Hokage ordered the mandatory sharing of youth via hugging. Many unfortunate villages were caught between the two as they hugged, performing the dreaded sunset no jutsu. Painting a big, pink unibrow across the wide foreheads of Sakura Haruno Lee's twin daughters. The screams of the Haruno Lee girls caused many to go permanently deaf. Pinning the Ninja Academy doors closed, trapping a dozen Chunin instructors in a building with several hundred half-feral kids. Stealing Kakashi's Ika Ika collection and distributing to the youth of the village. Swapping all the birth control pills for fertility pills. This will ensure that the maternity ward will be very busy and that Konohamaru's and Hanabi's love child will have a lot of classmates in the Ninja Academy. Attacking all the Jonin instructors so that they have to remain home sitting on a toilet due to incurable loose stools. Fooling the young genin teams that it was time to learn about sexual techniques and requiring them to practice. Note that the girls are all taking the new birth control pills, and the boys are ordered to take little blue diamond-shaped vitamins. Dumping all the ramen noodles in town into the ponds and rivers. Naruto is guaranteed to explode at the sight of wasted ramen and will suffer ramen withdrawal until he gets some. Stealing the forbidden scroll, the Hokage's stamp, the Hokage's hat, destroying the village's sake supply, and pissing in the Hokage's sake. Chasing the village idiots. Interrogation auditorium, Anbu headquarters. Anbu stood guard over Moegi and Udon. As youths, the two pulled pranks with Konohamaru, and after the ramen dumping incident cleared Naruto from suspicion, they were the only two remaining suspects in town, or at least knew how Konohamaru, the only missing suspect, would plan and execute his pranks. Anko looked at the pair. They were found naked, physically expressing their love for one another in a hay barn outside of town. Now both were hog-tied naked in front of the Hokage and half the interrogation department. Anko pricked her finger and summoned a snake. Hylas has a unique venom. One bite in Hylas's hemotoxic venom will cause your boy toy's favorite part to swell up in unbelievable pain for 4 days, before withering and rotting off. Hylas slid towards Udon's happy parts. Thanks to your buddy, My kids are planning sometime to top your pal's latest stunt. I finally am getting enough sleep and now, you have mess up my time to get 8 hours a day of rest. Do you know what 8 hours a day feels like once you have to start raising kids, do you? Oh, you are going to pay. I am going to make sure that the two of you are not ever going to have a good night's sleep ever again. The two started squirming. Udon was the first to break down and confess. Please spare my little noodle. The last time I saw Konohamaru was at the inn a day's journeys from here. Anko looked down at the shivering Udon and laughed. Your outie is becoming an inna if you do not tell me what was he doing. We were celebrating our promotions with sake. Hanabi Hyuga, Konohamaru, Moegi, and I got promoted. Ebisu got the messenger hawk and returned back here for a mission. He told Konohamaru that he was in charge. When I last saw Konohamaru he was. Was what? Asked an Anbu wearing an owl mask. Owl-san, Hanabi and Konohamaru went upstairs to celebrate. The silence in the room was deafening. Not since the nine-tail attack could anger be radiated so strongly. Konohamaru must die a slow death, muttered an Anbu member wearing an owl mask. The other Anbu looked at Owl as Owl cracked his knuckles in his neck. They should have stopped him, but not even the Hokage stopped him. Her only command to Owl was, Owl, bring them both in alive, Konohamaru, just barely, and make sure he can talk and feel pain. As for Hanabi, it is your call. Owl looked straight into the Hoagi's eye and grunted, just barely, oh just barely, I promise you just barely. Hanabi Hyuga will be grounded for a lifetime plus 2 reincarnations. Owl removed his mask. Udon and Moegi saw the face of the Hyuga clan leader. Among the Anbu there were some whispered names that were feared by all. Everyone feared bear, snake, kitsune, deer, and ryu. However, fear about all was the owl. Owl was known for his hatred of all things Kumo and kept a collection of Kumo ninja skulls and finger bones at his Anbu office. Now, Kumo was second to Owl's hatred of the one who defiled his little girl. Anko cut the bindings from Udon and Moegi. She handed Udon a little blue vitamin and Moegi another pill. These will re-energize you and prevent accidental pregnancy. Go have fun. If you don't, Hylas might bite you. The pair quickly took the pills. Some say that marriage only made Anko more sadistic. They underestimated her. Marriage only made her more creative. You have to be if you had to raise Aruka's kids. Inside Anko's mind, a chibi Anko danced the victory dance. There will be nothing accidental about Udon and Moegi's upcoming destiny with parenthood. Let them laugh when they cannot get 8 hours of sleep for the next 20 years. These pills guaranteed triplets or your money back. Serves them right for not stopping Konohamaru. Vengeance is mine, says Kami, and I am Kami. Hyuga clan estate. The entire clan feared Heishi the moment they saw his face. Now even the day he had to sacrifice his own brother did Heishi display this level of anger. In the old days, everyone knew that everyone was going to get a taste of the bird seal. However, Heishi did not bother. The fear of punishment was more effective than punishment itself. Get Neji, Naruto, and Hinata here now. The branch family ran to comply. The main family took one more look at Heishi, turned around, and ran after the branch family. Within minutes, the trio arrived. It seems that a little rodent named Konohamaru Sarutobi has seduced Hanabi. I want you to tell me everything you know or can guess about their present location. It had been over a year since Hinata stuttered. Now the stutter was back in full force. Father. They stopped by our place. You are going to be a grandfather. Of course I know that I am going to be a grandfather again in 3 months. What about? Father. They are going to make you a grandfather again in 9. Pigs are in geosynchronous orbit. Monkeys everywhere are typing out the script for Hamlet. Hell had just frozen over. Demons cried out in fear. The devil cried uncle. There was a new bad boy coming down ready to take over hell and deliver it to all creation. His name was Heishi Hyuga and he made Chuck Norris look like little Lord Fauntleroy, made the four horsemen of the apocalypse look like cuddly figures, made Big Bad Leroy Brown look like a Teletubby, and redefined the term badass. Hinata, I promise that I will not hurt Hanabi. However, Konohamaru has insulted our family. Instead of facing me like a man would face me, like I faced your maternal grandfather, he slinks into the shadows thinking that I would not find out. I will not kill the rodent. Killing is too good for some, something like that, knave. Neji, you are in charge of the clan in my absence. Hinata, I am going to borrow your husband for a hunting trip for one little weasel. His chastisement will be long and lingering. I will rain down doom on the doomed heads of my doomed enemy. Hinata shuddered. The last time a Hyuga used that line, an entire village was leveled, everything was killed slowly, and the land of fertility became the land of hell and brimstone. The insult, some idiot joked about a Hyuga boy's attachment to his stuffed tiger. Hell was a-coming and its name was Heishi. Is there anything more that I should know? I got the bunnies. Hang unto the bunnies. I am going to give the girls of our family a little rodent as an early Christmas present first. Issue out the cheese graters and tell them who took the bunnies. Naruto shuddered until he remembered the ramen dumping incident. Sympathy turned to anger as Naruto remembered the sacrilege. No one messes with the ramen. Konohamaru, see what happens when you mess with the ramen gods. 2 days run outside the village. One could feel the doom radiating from the Konohagakure. It was a half day to Wave Country and then a week-long boat ride to the village hidden in the mists. There was an explosion of hostile intent coming from the village. Kono-kun, I think Daddy just found out, cried Hanabi. If you have not seen the slug's face on the Kardankori snail and slug death, no amount of words could display the look on Konohamaru's face. There was no time to wait. The pair looked at one another and started running. Little did they know that this would be the start of a world tour. Hokage's tower. I want 100 million ryo for the barely breathing body of that defiler. Shizune looked at the face of her mentor. She wanted to laugh. Konohamaru had done what no person ever done before. Tsunade Senju was sober. An Anbu bodyguard poured tea and then sipped it prior to handing it to the Hokage. It is safe to drink. No piss, ma'am. Shizune had to ask the question, missing nin status. No, not yet. Missing nins are killed on sight. Sum wants this one to suffer a long, pain-filled life. This will be just a routine, disciplinary hearing. The ominous cracking of knuckles proclaimed what kind of routine disciplinary hearing awaited the newly promoted Chunin. Get me the Hyuga girls. I am allowing the Hyuga girls to get back in the torture game. Tell Ibiki that he will have a lot of apprentices this year. Also, increase the budget for cheese graters this year, I think that we will need it. Shizune nodded. It was funny, but the boy had just written checks on his body that no Hyuga can cash. Panda-chan's weapons shop. It was an early Christmas for Ten-Ten's family. A line of pre-teen Hyuga girls lined up around the block with their mothers. One by one, each girl went in and bought a complete set of ninja gear, the most brutal-looking weapon, and placed an order for a cheese grater and a metal meat tenderizing mallet. They did not insist on bargaining and was willing to pay full price for high-quality gear. Ten-Ten counted the money as her shop was emptied. Everything from swords to the flying guillotine went. Electrocution tags, Indian burn tags, perpetual atomic wedgie tags. Any tag related to pain went out the dog in the hands of a little preteen giggling Hyuga girl. Ten-Ten wondered if the little girl growing her belly was going to end up like her cousins. It was time to get stocked up because between Neji and herself, her little girl was going to find new and inventive ways to use pointy things on her foes. Note to self, do not mess with the bunnies. Outside, little Hyuga girls were singing. Kono, Kono, what ya gonna do when we torture you? The village was becoming a scary place. Legions of pissed-off Hyuga girls were going around town burning and cheese-grating Konohamaru in effigy. Boys were scared. Usually girls were not scary until their first periods. Now there were 67 little girls ready to show the world why you don't mess with their bunnies. Konohamaru and Hanabi are in trouble. With pissed off daddy Heishi Hyuga and the entire village of Konohagakure after the pair now embarks on their quest to remain alive, intact, and ungrounded. Story. Konohamaru awoke to a pair of pupil-less eyes 2 inches away from his own. These were the eyes in his nightmares and his wet dreams. In this case, these eyes belong to his wet dream, not the father-in-law from hell. The voice laughed at him. I didn't know that I was still that scary. Girl, if your father was not out to kill me, you would have scared 20 years of my life. It would be kind of neat to live to be as old as Ojia's and Grandpa. Maybe not that old, but at least old enough to play catch the shuriken, ninja stars, with the kids. The little girl smiled and then flicked Konohamaru's little pal. Ouch. Do as I say. All we have to do is make it alive until the delivery. Once he sees the kid, father would not. Sure. He still needs you to breastfeed the baby. He does not need me anymore. Are you sure that he will not find us? Konohamaru wondered how this girl could be the rookie of the year. He shook his head. He will find us. I just hope to die of a heart attack from all this running first. Besides, I have to show Naruto who is the best pranker in the world. I have a lot more folks to prank. There is wave, Iwa, Kumo, grass, waterfall, mist, sound, a whole world to prank. He paused as he got another glimpse of the legendary Hyuga mammary glands. They were not overly big like Tsunade's or Hinata's, not that he will ever admit to peeking in on Onisan Naruto and Onisan Hinata during their wedding night, but they were a nice B-cup with the perky upturn unique to young girls. He did not bother trying to hide the nosebleed. Hanabi looked at him as if he was growing a penis out of his forehead. Melons, honeydew, and a touch of cantaloupe. She gave him the same look that one reserves for a loved one going senile. Kabuto's office, Sound Village. Hubby Baka. Kabuto snarled another curse as he wondered how Orochimaru could be so frigging stupid. If Kabuto was not Orochimaru's personal medic nin for so many years, he would have long concluded that the pedophile had his brains rotted out from some STD obtained from some child brothel. Everyone knew that the kids in the child brothels had more STDs than the typical streetwalker. At least the streetwalkers were experienced enough to go to a doctor to treat the crotch rot. Orochimaru was stupid to even wish to be a cage. Not only does a cage tend to have the misfortune to not die of old age, but they had to deal with Kabuto's current foe, paperwork. If it were important paperwork, Kabuto would grudgingly do it. The smooth running of the hidden sound villages relied on keeping track of logistics, intelligence, and activities of 6 different village complexes with hundreds of miles of tunnel complexes linking them like a demented ant farm. However, could not his subordinates decide what color to paint the hospital waiting rooms? Kabuto wanted to spend time on his research. Nope. He was stuck deciding if the hospital waiting rooms should be standard white or ultra lemon in color. The worst part was his subordinates wrote lengthy arguments about which colors they recommend, but they could not just make a simple choice. As long as the minor things were done adequately, Kabuto did not care to make object lessons out of his nins. Ripping out organs of your ninjas' bodies over minor issues was counterproductive. Unlike Orochimaru, Kabuto actually prized initiative from clever subordinates. In the past, Orochimaru would slay the minion that dare waste his time or bring him bad news. Now that Orochimaru's mind was trapped in Kabuto's body, Kabuto was stuck trying to revive the sound. Being the cage of a new hidden village was hell on earth times an infinity and beyond. Most of his ninja were genin straight from the orphanages ran through a 6-month class. In the more twisted countries, they would be fodder for the academy students to practice their killing moves upon. To Kabuto, these unwanted children were his only assets. He could not afford to waste his ninjas on experimental upgrades as Orochimaru did. Instead, Kabuto had them out posing as independent ninja doing D and C rank missions to get the money necessary to run the village and recruit more orphans. Due to the losses from the invasion and Orochimaru's reputation for perversion and experimentation, it was hard to attract the Chunin and Jonin level ninja needed to properly teach the kids. Toss in the occasional raid from Suna and Konohagakure, it was almost impossible to make progress in building a capable force that could protect the village and carve out a niche in the ninja world. It was 10 minutes to Kabuto's worst nightmare next to being Orochimaru's little butt buddy. Due to the lack of capable instructors, he, the leader of Sound Village, had to personally teach the next generation of Sound Ninja. He had to face an auditorium of half-feral brats with Orochimaru screaming inside his head to start fondling the little boys. Kabuto hated, loathed child molesters. Thankfully, by the time he was stuck working for the pedophile snake Sanin, he was too old to sexually attract the pedophile snake. Nevertheless, it was a close call. To survive working for a paranoid freak, Kabuto had to play Russian roulette by repeatedly offering his life for one of the freak's experiments. It was a close call several times, but Kabuto convinced the snake Sanin that he was worth more unaltered than undergoing one of Orochimaru's twisted experiments. Kabuto was proud that not even a proctologist got a chance to probe his ass. Contrary to what many said back in Konoha, Kabuto liked females. He got into spying because he enjoyed pepping on females. He was as perverted as Jiraiya, but he was better. No one, save for Itachi Uchiha, caught him in the act. His favorite fantasies involved cougars, preferably the MILF variety, teaching their teenage daughters how to please him and then having the teen practice. For far too many years, he had to play the role of the nerd. If it was not for his occupation as a spy, he could have been the next Kakashi, less the creepy porn obsession. He could have been a sex god and show that limp dick Yamanaka that knock up his whore mother what a real man with mind-reading powers could do. Being able to read the female mind was better than any other bloodline trait. When he was serious about seduction, Kabuto batted a perfect 1000. Once Orochimaru was out of the picture, Kabuto spent a lot of time cleaning up the Sound Village. He shut down all the child brothels. Kabuto personally used the numerous pedophiles that Orochimaru attracted to Sound as subjects for the Sound Ninja Academy's medical dissection and torture class. That act alone cemented the loyalty of the children that made up the majority of the Sound Village ninja forces. The only reason he ever worked for Orochimaru was that the pedophile bastard paid him very well. To top it off, Itachi Uchiha paid him ever more to spy on Orochimaru's activities. You could be the one of the top ninja in the world, but even Kabuto was wise enough to fear Itachi's wrath. Now Itachi was dead and Kabuto was on his own, just trying to survive long enough to build a village strong enough that he could retire and spend his time building a perverted clan that rivaled the Hyugas. He vowed to pay back his unknown Yamanaka father for leaving him to be raised by a roadside whore. A horse, my kingdom for a horse, muttered Kabuto. It was ironic that the ninja that did not ever want to be a cage was stuck being a cage. Kabuto remembered Naruto Uzumaki. Uzumaki was always bragging how he was going to be the next Hokage. He could have it in Sound too, as long as Kabuto could simply retire without a price on his head. Uzumaki was a worthy foe and Kabuto was one of the few that survived a confrontation with the orange-clad ninja. He even missed watching the young Uzumaki being chased by Anbu after pulling pranks. Kabuto thought for a second. He had a semi-photographic memory, one he burned information on his cards using chakra. The ex-medical ninja could remember everything he burned even if he lost the card. Kabuto had burned tens of thousands of cards and could instantly recall every last stroke on every last character. He blanked out his mind, punished Orochimaru by imagining a hot springs with several teenage versions of Tsunade Senju going totally into fangirl mode for the snake, and then proceed to connect the dots while enjoying Orochimaru's pleas for mercy. It was going to be hard on Sound's finances, but pranking would be the secret to training the ninja he needed. Play was one thing that all children loved to do. If he could convince the children that his training program was one ubercool game of playing ninja, It was Kabuto's playing ninja that helped him become one of the best ninja in the world. It ensured Itachi caught Kabuto, at age 8 spying on the women's bath. At the time, Kabuto was playing ninja, he thought that girls had cooties. Kabuto, although he was not trained in the Yamanaka mind control techniques, managed to inherit enough talent from his unknown father and develop sufficient skill to convince Itachi to let him go as Itachi's spy, even though Itachi nearly killed him for diving into his mind. It was that moment that Kabuto was fated to end up here. No matter how good you are in spying, you were bound to be discovered. Playing ninja and pranking would perhaps be the training tool he needed to develop capable ninja in between the other training. Kabuto calculated the costs as an epiphany struck him. He could have one group of kids pranks the hell out of a community and then offer his services at a discount to scare the prankers off. It would be both train his genin, build goodwill with other communities, and enrich Sound's overstrained treasury. As Kabuto grabbed his training supplies, he started formulating the Sound Village's new training program and Operation Prank and Blackmail. What he did not know was that he was throwing napalm on the fire emerging from Konoha. Weathermen know that when two fronts collide, weather gets interesting. When you have three weather fronts colliding, trouble is brewing. Konoha and Hanabi were the hot front. Heishi and the 67 preteen Hyuga girls was the cold front. Now Sound was going to be the third front. If fate had any mercy, it would interfere. That was assuming that fate was merciful. The road to wave. If you were a typical betting man, the smart money would be betting that Naruto would outlast Heishi Hyuga in a long-distance race. However, after a day and a half, Naruto was getting winded. Heishi had yet to break a sweat, let alone show any visible signs of fatigue. God damn it, that old man, when I catch up to him. The curses were going through Naruto's head. If Kiba or any of Naruto's other friends saw him getting wiped by a man old enough to be his father. Heishi made the motion to halt. Naruto almost stumbled into his father-in-law. Do not even bother. You are out of shape. Hinata has been feeding you too much ramen and not giving you enough exercise. This was far beyond Heishi's typical daily word count. Heishi could teach Sasuke how to communicate with grunts. Naruto wanted to retort, but he was too busy to catch his breath. The fox was laughing in his head. Your father lacked stamina too. He ate too much ramen. The tracks split up here. Naruto was about to make the sign to summon shadow clones. Do not even bother. Konohamaru is good enough to summon 10 shadow clones. He even got half of them to henge into Hanabi. The problem is that he underestimated me. Huh. Naruto was stunned and he showed his limitations by putting on the Uzumaki trademarked face of stupidity. Heishi's face went from anger to a half-smile. No one ever saw Heishi smile. It was creepy to see the joy of the hunt radiate across the face of the Hyuga clan leader. It was a twisted smile that made Naruto think of Jiraiya-sensei's smile when peeping at the lady's hot springs. It was twisted in a way that reminded one of Ebenezer Scrooge's smiles of glee while throwing out a widow and starving children out into a winter blizzard. It was more disturbing than Orochimaru getting first crack of placing his 60-year-old hot dog between virgin 5-year-old buns. Smiles simply were not the Hyuga thing. At the wedding, Heishi's face was in the trademark Hyuga mask with the patented, "If you ever make my daughter cry anything but tears of happiness, I will dissect you, slowly like and then feed your balls to the gators," look that all fathers of the bride perfected. Your father had the nasty habit of trying to ditch Jiraiya and I when your father had plans with your mother. Minato might not love the shadow clone as much as you, but he tried using it. The problem was that he had once broken in his right leg in a spar. Since then, there was a slight hitch in the step. He never noticed, but I did. He could fake all the tracks but only one set showed that hitch. But how does that help? And why were you chasing my father? Your father, for all his skill, was an idiot and a klutz. More than once, I had to track down his sorry ass and save him from his stupidity. Jiraiya-sensei had us all hone our spying skills by peeping at the female Jonin baths and drawing what we saw. Of course, your old man was only good for stick figures. Your father would expose us and I had to drag your father away from the mob. If you though Anko was crazy, her mother was an Anbu lieutenant that went on a few too many S-classed missions if you catch my drift. She would chase us around the village threatening to castrate us. If you could not run and sleep at the same time, no more fun time for your little pal. My job was to do the dirty work and babysit your father while he played the role of hero. Cammy sure did look after that baka idiot, cause he was the biggest fool I ever saw. Oh, the girls loved his humor. It was the humor of the inept stumbling on the path of life. Kakashi uses all Minato's excuses. The sad truth, they were all true for your father. He did walk 100 blind old ladies across the street, rescue that demon cat from the tree, and got lost on the path of life twice in a single block. Heishi took another swig of his drink. It was my job to make sure that he did not hurt himself, get lost, get raped by a mob of his fans, or overstrain what little brains sat between his ears. If it did not involve seals or locating the nearest ramen stand, your father's mind was next to useless and his sense of direction, forget it. He had more girls on a string than my family has money and he did not know it. Girls and fanboys were throwing themselves at him and he could not embrace the teachings of the gods of hentai. I thought that he was gay until he ignored Uchiha Fugaku Yuki's seduction attempts at the hot springs. He is proof that sons end up like the father. Your mother had to drug your father, strip him, rape him, and sport a growing belly before he figured out that she loved him and wanted to bear his children. I thought that Hinata would have to do the same to you and wondered why I was not a grandfather much earlier. There was a betting pool, you know. Heishi's half-laugh fell of his face. Naruto was stunned. Not only was Heishi talkative in his sleep, but Heishi personally knew his father. Naruto knew who his father was. He knew since the night that Mizuki tricked him into stealing that scroll. Everyone in the village spoke of his father as some kind of ninja god. Even Jiraiya spoke of his father as some kind of Superman. Here was the only man in the entire village that was willing to tell him about the real dad he never met, even if every other word was baka. Naruto uncharacteristically decided to keep his mouth shut. Maybe Heishi would let more details. Hanabi once broke her right leg falling out of a tree when she was first learning how to tree walk. Since then, she pushes off harder on her left foot than on the right. Notice how the left footprint is slightly deeper than the right. Due to the extra strength in her left leg, she prefers kicking with it. She never noticed it. I never had the reason to tell her. We older men learn to use the head between the ears, slow down, notice things, and then apply our knowledge and experience to solve the problem instead of charging in. That is why if a ninja survives 15 years, he or she is generally going to retire unless they are misfortunate to end up with a genin team that gets them killed first. Heishi paused. Stay behind me. They are trying to leap from stone to stone. I can see the rock scrapes an impression. Heishi snarled a curse towards the heavens. Nice try, fuckface. Heishi's accent changed from the prim nobleman to that of the mangrove swamp folk from Wave. Tell that little rodent that the trick with the shadow clones was good. I'm better. I have tracked Miss Jonin in the fog and rain, Kumo Jonin on their home turf. Minato and I crapped on their cage's bed and pissed on his face. I posted the entire town with nude pictures of his wife and sister expressing their love of Yuri. Why do you think Kumo wants me dead long before you were born? Hiyashi opened his canteen and took a sip of some vile liquor made from juniper berries. He called it gin and it was the one thing that keep his blood pressure down. Nothing ever stopped me from finding my prey. Keep a running, little boy. I am going to run you to death for a light appetizer and then resurrect you for the cocktails, salad course, main course, and again for dessert before giving you to the girls for thieving them bunnies, you monkey baka. Run, little monkey baka, run. I dare you to keep running, runt. You better run cuz I got my eyes on you, boy. You ain't going to be pissing in an upright position when I gut you slowly and feed your tallywhacker to the gators. Do not get sick on me, 'cause them gators gots to eats too. In my world, the Uchiha, the equivalent of the Miranda warning in the United States warning goes, holler all y'all want little shit, 'cause it don't phase me none, and due process means that I will do it all slowly like so you don't die too soon. Ibuku does not have half the skill I have in making a tough guy talk. Heishi walked down the road for another mile, flexing his hands as he followed the trail. It was like working with an Inuzuka hound, but with eyes rather than a nose. As for you, Naruto, if you ever tell anyone that I am sentimental or anything about a trip down memory lane, or your child will be an only child, Wakaramasu ka. Understand. The gates to the past were closed. Naruto could finally see the exhaustion in Heishi's half-closed eyes. The man was half asleep and rambling as he tracked Hanabi's footprints. Naruto was not scared of much. He faced pain. He faced Gaara when Gaara was homicidal. He dealt with Sasuke Uchiha in the final stages of the curse mark. Naruto had faced many things that would scare even a hardened Anbu operative. Naruto had only 3 fears. 1. Hinata would suddenly stop loving him. 2. The gods banned ramen forever. 3. Heishi Hyuga coming after him with the legendary Hyuga castration strike. Naruto could hear the soft snore as Heishi Hyuga, asleep on his feet, somehow followed the right set of tracks. He was tempted to wake up the old man. However, Naruto had an unusual moment of wisdom. Maybe it would not be safe to waken the sleeping bear. It was safer to get between a pack of Inuzuka hounds and a big, juicy rare USDA prime steak than to wake up a sleeping Hyuga. Naruto still sported the aches and pains from his encounter with that lesson. Hinata was very violent if startled awake. Naruto came close to losing his little pal the last time he suddenly woke her up. Naruto did not want to see if maybe she inherited that from her father. Besides, it was kind of neat how the old man could sleep and track with his eyes half closed. If only he could learn the trick of working while sleeping, maybe dealing with the paperwork demons would be so much easier. Wave Country. Ninjas were trouble. Even passing through, they were trouble. Tarzuna had learned that lesson many years ago when Wave was subjugated by Gato's thugs. With the bridge and the economic boom, there were a lot of ninjas passing through Wave. They got so bad that Wave had to hire a retired Leaf Jonin to hold the local watch and keep the passing ninja from tearing apart the town. Every weekend, some ninja kid would see some other ninja kid wearing a different headband and fight. Cleaning up the mess kept Tarzuna's work crews fully employed. The old man drank down a gulp of Kumo's famed Onako, demon child, sake. It was a poor imitation of Whirlpool's legendary Onokoroshi, demon slayer, sake, but there were only 6 cases of the good stuff left and Tarzuna was saving those for a very special occasion. There was the feeling of trouble and it was coming from the direction of Konohagakure. Akira, the Retire Leaf Jonin, did not have to tell him that something bad happened. Having felt the killing intent of the former mist nin Momochi Zabuza and lived, Tarzuna was an expert at detecting killing intent. He shuddered at the killing intent coming from the direction of Konohagakure. It made Momochi Zabuza's killing intent feel like a Barney the purple pedophile dinosaur. I love you, you love me, sing along, or the guy in the green and white striped shirt singing along to Blue's Clues. Tarzuna decided to do the prudent thing. He went down to his basement to wait out the coming storm of trouble with a case or 5 of his liquid pals. Tsunami, Tarzuna's daughter, heard a scream of anguish coming from the basement. She ran down to the basement. Her father's face was white as he was clutching his chest in pain. My preciouses. Someone stole my precious. The basement was empty. Someone stole the world's largest collection of high-end sake. There was a note carved into one of the wooden beams. Thanks for the sake, old man. I normally would not steal an old man's last pride and joy, but when my father out of law catches up with me, your sake will be the only action I will have for the rest of my long, lingering, pain-filled existence. Your sake will be used for a good cause. Thanks to the gods of sake, I only have lost my virginity, had the best sex of my life with the most beautiful girl in the world, and will be father in 9 months. Tell Heishi Hyuga that I love Hanabi. We are going out into the world to make a lot of little Konohamarus and Hanabis. We will not be back until things have calmed down a bit back home. Konohamaru Sarutobi. P.S. Naruto Onisan and Heishi Hyuga Ojiazan will pay the bill. Naruto Nisan also has the recipe for the legendary Uzumaki Onikaroshi. Do not let him go without giving you the recipe. Tell Naruto Onisan to watch out, I am going to take his title the Prince of Pranks away from him. I already got the hat and it fits quite nicely. If he wants to see the work of a prank master, just follow the screams of outrage. There was a second note pinned to the beam with a needle. Daddy, I know you are upset at the two of us. I did not plan on all this happening, but it happened for the best. At least this way, I know I am getting a husband who loves me for me, not because I am your heir or because of the money I stood to inherit. At least this way, I do not have to come up with a lie to politely turn down that bugger-eating third son of the dynamo. At least I am not sharing my first time with an overweight, 40-year-old, nose-picking virgin. I know that you would do your best to stop the arranged marriage, but Konoha could not withstand the resulting economic crisis. In the end, Tsunade-sama would have to order me to bear the fat bastard's brats. I wished I could say that this was all part of a master plan to avoid a fate worse than death, but Kami has a unique way of answering the prayer, deliver me from all fools, morons, and imbeciles. Besides, the sake responsible was Onikaroshi. I am now on a quest to get as much as we can since it is only fitting that the family should celebrate the birth of a new member with the same sake responsible for the new member's conception. I am keeping both my baby and the father. I know that you do not like Kono-kun very much. He is brash, obnoxious, forgets to bath on occasion, and everything a Hyuga is taught from childhood to loathe. However, after living a life trapped by the expectations of our family, he is the breath of fresh air. With him, I am not the ice princess. I am simply Hanabi-chan. I will not be back for a while. Tell Neji Onisan and Hinata Onisan that I love them and will miss them. Please just leave us be. It is better this way for all of us. I will try to talk some sense into my husband's head and get him to calm down so that he will be a good role model for our son. Tell the girls that I am sorry about the rabbits, but Konohamaru risked his life retrieving Mr. Bungles because he loved me and did not want to see me cry. Should something happen, please let Hinata raise my son. Split my money between her and Neji. Maybe soon, I will be able to see you all. Until then, I give you my love. Hanabi. Tsunami wiped the tears out of her eyes. It was all for love, just like in the novels. Besides, anyone that could keep her drunken father away from the sake bottle could not be evil with a capital E. It will be interesting to see her father sober for the first time in decades. Tsunami, watch the village. I am going to catch me a jumping monkey, Sarutobi means monkey jumps, and enjoy the monkey feast. No one touches my precious and lives. I don't care if it is the one thing that saves the world from the wrath of Kami. He stole my precious, my beautiful precious. On the other side of wave. Do you think the old man will be upset? Asked Hanabi. I mean you took all the sake and did not leave him a bottle. Do not worry. We already have your father chasing us. It cannot get much worse, replied Konohamaru. Suddenly a mushroom cloud of killing, nay torturing for a long time intent went off in wave. Hanabi gulped. I think the old is on to us. Run monkey baka run. The pair took off and ran to their next stop on the world tour. If it were not for Hinata's help, the village would not know the full details about the impending population boom. With the exception of one rookie genin team, because one girl was on guard duty at the Hyuga estate, the other girl was stuck working a shift at the Yamanaka flower shop, and the boy, an Akemchi, was too busy trying to bankrupt an all-you-can-eat buffet. All the other males on the newly formed genin teams were on D-rank missions playing carpenters, building nurseries and cribs to cope with the upcoming population boom they had helped create. Half of Sakura's task was identifying which team member was the father of what particular fetus. Due to the fertility pills and the fact that genin team typically has a 2-1 boy to girl mix, most of the girls had at least one upcoming child from each male on the team. With an average of 2.6 extra chakra sources per female ninja, Sakura was cursing being the head OB/GYN pediatrics medic nin for the entire village. Sure, the civilian doctors could handle deliveries for any civilian girls knocked up, but the laws of Konohagakure required that female ninja and females from bloodline clans use medic nins or clan midwives for all ninja births. The placentas had a lot of genetic information that Konoha could not risk falling into the hands of other villages. That is why the ninja OB/GYN units were guarded by Anbu operatives and all personnel inside were medic nins that were screened thoroughly by Inochi Yamanaka himself. Now Sakura was looking forward to over 360 deliveries in 40 weeks. With 5 of them from Akemchi females. Sakura was already prepping for the rush. The worst part, she was 2 months pregnant before all this happened. Thankfully, this one would be a single birth. Sakura would have to subject herself to the breast pump and tell her husband, Lee, that he could train his flames of youth by taking care of the twins in her upcoming newborn. However, if she ever caught him doing the sunset no jutsu, preaching about the joys of youth, or making her kids wear green spandex and orange leg warmers, she will use everything that her mentor, Tsunade the Slug Sannin, taught her about bitch-smacking perverts, pound all the youth out of Lee and his uncle Maeda, and send the youth-loving pair to an early grave. Lee was fast, but he was not faster than his wife when Sakura is going to lay the chakra-enhanced beat down. Before this, there were enough female medic nins to handle all but the worst cases. Now she had her planned maternity leave short to take care of this. Hanabi definitely will be scheduled for a natural delivery with no epidurals. Make that bitch feel the pain Hanabi Heim. Feel the pain as that baby rips Yao Twat from the inside out. I hope you spend 24 hours in labor before you have a vaginal delivery. I will ensure that your baby weighs at least 9 pounds. 9 pounds of pain, beautiful pain. Pain. I promise you hours of pain, bitch. Teach you to mess with me. Mawoo ha 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 ha. There were very few times that Sakura agreed with the voice inside her head. However, both were contemplating ways to increase the pain factor when it came time for one Hyuga princess to deliver her 9-month souvenir. Kurigakure no Sato, the village hidden in the mists. Long known as the village of the bloody mist, Kurigakure no Sato had seen its shares of tragedies. For generations, young prospective genin fought one another to the death to earn their place in the ninja forces of the mist. The practice continued for generations until Zabuza Momochi, later known as the Demon of the Mist, slew an entire graduating class. After generations of mentally unstable rulers, it appeared that maybe the village hidden in the mists would have a chance to regain its strength. The 5th Mizukage Mei Terumi looked out of her window into the fog that covered most of the village. She had to rebuild the strength of the village. The paranoia of the 4th Mizukage had driven out most of the bloodlines out of the land of water, and the few that fought back were killed when Zabuza's coup d'etat failed. The purges had weakened the mist ninja forces until only tradition ensured that the head of Kurigakure was still recognized as a kage. Mei Terumi wondered what would have happened if Zabuza succeeded. No one alive knew that she had helped him get close enough to almost kill the 4th Mizukage Yagura, but not even the demon of the mist could succeed against the prison warden of a tailed beast. It was Mei Terumi's efforts that ensured that her former lover managed to escape the hunter nin that the former Mizukage, Yagura, sent after him. Zabuza-kun, you wanted to see this day. Mei looked at the stack of paperwork threatening to make her desk implode from its sheer mass. Any more, the mass would spontaneously form a black hole and suck all of creation inside. Mei suppressed half a chuckle. Zabuza would probably pull out his sword and turn the paperwork into confetti before turning on the idiot dumb enough to waste his time on minutia. He was direct, too direct to be an effective administrator or politician, a great field commander, but some unlucky subordinate would have to do all the paperwork for him. No, fate ensured that she would be stuck fighting Akage's ultimate nightmare, paperwork. Buza, you must be laughing at me. I promise you that when I see you in the afterlife, I will kick your ass before shoving that sword where the sun never shined. May poured some tea into her cup. Sake was good for reminiscing about the past, but Sake had to wait until the paperwork was completed. She admired the Leaf's Godarame Senju Tsunade, but disliked the fact that the vain, old Sennin drank sake like a fish when there was still a job to do. Worst yet, Kanahagakure had the shadow clone. Shadow clones could do all the paperwork. Maze water clones, sure they could hold the pen and sign a document, but tended to soak the paperwork in the process. Note to self. Next Jonin that pisses me off gets sent on a mission to obtain the shadow clone jutsu. Maybe a fire jutsu or two to clean out this mess. She looked at the intelligence reports. Kumo, Iwa, Sound, and Sand were all busy with rebuilding. The alliances of the hidden villages dealt with the Akatsuki threat. Seeing the most dangerous nuke nin being defeated had caused the others to lie low. The few that did not get the message were dealt with by hunter nin of various hidden villages. All looked calm until she looked at the intelligent reports from her agent in the Leaf Village. She had read old reports about an academy student named Naruto Uzumaki pranking the Leaf Village, but the report on her desk had to be someone deciding to recycle all the clippings from old intelligence reports. She had met the young blonde and even talked to him. This was too much for even the legendary Kage Bushin master that Naruto was to contemplate, let alone do. She looked at the eyes of her intelligence chief. He had long ago acted as her mentor, but now she was the one making the decisions. Tell me that this is some kind of joke. The cripple old Jonin slowly shook his head. I personally made sure that my agents were not huffing smoke or hitting the bottle. 2 recently promoted Chunin did all this. Nani, what? 2 rookie Chunin, what the hell is Leaf doing to train its ninja force? More importantly, how do we get our ninja forces to catch up to their level of skill? Tell me what happened. The Leaf Village is preparing for something. According to hospital records, just about every Konichi of childbearing age is expecting. In 12 years, they will have doubled the pool of potential ninja. Morino Ibiki and Anko Yumino, formerly Orochimaru apprentice, got 67 pre-teen Hyuga girls, barely academy students the bloody lot, to train under him as field interrogators. Dozens of pre-teen Hyuga girls lined around the block buying weapons from the shop of Tenten Hyuga, formerly Tenten no Kajiya, the blacksmith, a semi-retired Chunin with a reputation for being a weapons mistress and a master weaponsmith. We have also found out that Leaf dispatched a newly promoted Jonin, named Naruto Uzumaki, and an experienced Anbu commander. Their orders are to hunt down and capture the 2 Chunin responsible. I do not have the name of the Anbu, just the codename. It's Owl. May silently contemplated the news with her usual smile as she processed the information. Note 1. Make cyanide teeth mandatory issue for all Mizugakure nin. The ninja world breathed a sigh of relief when the Hyuga were no longer in the interrogation business. Now the Hyuga girls would be back with their cat o' nine tails. The Yamanaka were mind readers. Ibiki could mess with your mind. Anko could keep you hurting for quite a while. A Hyuga could break a ninja, get them to spill their most intimate secrets, and twist the most loyal nin into servants loyal to their Hyuga mistresses. Note 2. Start a ninja breeding program. In 13 years, Konoha would have a rookie genin pool that would outnumber most hidden villages' total ninja forces. Konoha has quality and would soon have quantity. As a former Iwa Jonin once commented, quantity had a quality all its own. Note 3. Kanahagakure Anbu ninja were among the best ninja in the world and worst yet known for having the best teamwork ethic in the ninja world. Itachi Uchiha was an Anbu captain, codenamed Weasel, before slaughtering his powerful blood-lined clan in a single night. Kakashi, the copycat nin, was an Anbu captain, codenamed Inu Dog, before taking on a genin team with the Neo-Senin Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Naruto Uzumaki. However, there were 4 Anbu feared above all: Kitsune, Fox, Ryu, Dragon, Hanabi, Snake, and Owl. No one had seen Kitsune in a generation since Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, sealed the Kyuubi no Kitsune into one Naruto Uzumaki. Ryu and Hanabi were semi-retired, but known for being able to kill anyone. Twice, Ryu had snuck into the residences of Dynamo warlords, and painted warnings on the sleeping Dynamo's face as a message to cease and desist all activities against the Leaf Village. Hanabi has slain 70 highly protected targets and left only the shed skins of a snake. However, Owl was the most feared. The only name more fear was that of the 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Kumo nin would tell their children that if they did not behave, that the owl would get them. Heads of Kumo nin routinely would be delivered along with a single owl feather via messenger nin from all over the world. Every Halloween, the ninja of Kumo would huddle around the campfire and tell owl stories and jokes about how he kicked a horse in the head and now all its descendants are giraffes. Rumor was that Owl was the spymaster of Konoha and there were no secrets with the owl around. Mei remembered using dogs to hunt wild pigs as a youth. They worked in teams, tracking dogs and chase dogs. The tracking dog would locate the boar and then the chase dogs would bring the boar down. Owl was the tracking dog and Uzumaki was the chase dog. These two would not be used to hunt an ordinary missing nin. Only an S-ranked nin warranted the attention of Konoha's elite nin. Konoha was risking its 2 most important ninja on this mission. What were the names of the Chunin? Kurigakure no Sato's spymaster looked in his notes. Sarutobi Konohamaru and Hyuga Hanabi. Mei thought through her options. She had reports from the last Chunin examination. Everyone, even civilians, knew about the Hyuga clan. Since the death of Hyuga clan leader Heishi Hyuga, his brother and successor, Hisashi Hyuga, had been plotting something terrible. As far as the world outside Konoha knows, Heishi committed seppuku, not Hisashi. Konoha did not brag about the switch and Kumo did not want the world to know they got played into getting the wrong corpse. Kumo swore when their best ninja just disappeared without a trace, it was the work of Hisashi Hyuga. The village of Kumo was holding its breath waiting for the Hyuga clan to exact its revenge for the death of its clan head. The Hyuga married off Heishi's first-born daughter to Uzumaki Naruto, the carrier of the 9-tailed fox demon that successfully faced down Pain and his merry band of S and SS-classed missing nin. Mei knew that the young Jonin would probably succeed Tsunade Senju as the Hokage. However, the only thing she knew of the Sarutobi family were the fact that the 3rd Hokage was a Sarutobi and that Konohamaru only male left in the family. The family did not have a bloodline per se, but had a relatively large chakra reserve, access to thousands of techniques, and the ability to apply jutsu in imaginative ways. The family had to have thousands of ninjutsu in its possession and worse yet, seemed to pull out dozens more with every generation. To have those two working for her would ensure that the mist would once again be able to stand up to any village. We will not interfere with the hunt, yet. Our official stance is that this dispute is an internal matter of the Leaf Village. However, if the two decided to seek asylum from our village, just maybe we can regain some new blood to strengthen our village. Hyuga that can throw over 1,000 jutsu, that would be quite a boost. Let them know that they have a friend and a place to stay in Kurigakure if they want one. Mei could count the number of bloodlines in the Mist Village using one hand. The first was the one that she hid from the world for so many years, the Futon and Yuden creation. The second bloodline was the one that Zabuza had, the Water Whisker. It was a subtle bloodline, giving the member an affinity for water jutsu and using the water in the air to feel charka in the environment around them like a cat's whiskers feeling around in the dark. Everyone thought that it was his ears that allowed him to hunt. However, even if Zabuza went deaf and blind, he could hunt you anywhere there was the slightest bit of moisture. It made his silent killing technique almost unstoppable. Now it resided with Mei's daughter, Nene, along with the Fudan and Yuten creation. The third was the Hyouten ice release bloodline. The last master of the bloodline perished with the death of Zabuza protege Haku. Now, it was held by two orphans recently found wandering in the countryside. The fourth bloodline belonged to Renmara, who now worked at the Curry of Life shop. The fifth bloodline was the ultimate secret of the hidden mist. The previous Mizukage Yagura was not killed like many thought. Instead, an ancient ritual was performed to force him to reincarnate in order to preserve the tailed beast that lived inside of him. Kami has punished him by making him into what he hated the most, a little girl with a bloodline and more confidence issues than a certain, lavender-eyed, constantly fainting Hyuga female at the height of her terminal shyness. Maiko had the ability to pass her body through solid objects including living things. It would be a very effective technique in the hands of a ninja, but for now, the little girl used it to hide from all but a small handful of people. Mei contemplated her options. At best, she would have a new bloodline and hundreds of jutsu for her forces to use. At worst, Konohagakure would be a weakened position for a while. While the current leadership of Konohagakure was relatively peaceful, Danzo Shiuma, the former head of the Root Anbu, was proof that there were elements of Konohagakure's ruling council with imperialistic impulses. Even with the former head of Root Anbu being locked up in a mental ward fearing anal rape by Orochimaru, Barney the purple pedophile dinosaur, Michael Jackson, and some gender-confused, purse-carrying Teletubby did not mean that his followers did not still have an agenda to subjugate the rest of the world. Mei did not survive purges and suffer through the rebuilding efforts to see her village a vassal for the Leaf or any other village. Mei looked at the stack of papers imagining Zabuza storming in, chopping the stack and desk in twain, and then using the water whisker to tickle her in that very sensitive spot that most other guys seem to miss. Damn it, what does a kunoichi have to do get a well-hung lover with a lot of endurance? Back in Konoha, it was a good week. It was a bad week. Kiba looked at Akamaru in disgust. Motherfucker, Akamaru muttered at his human partner. Grandmotherfucker. At least I got to shelp my grandma, Kibble. Your grandma smacked you upside your stupid head with her walker because you could not get it up one more time after you became a mofo. You just had to screw the triplets. You just had to knock up your mama, yo, sister, and half your cousins too. Kiba and Akamaru went from being studs of the Inuzuka clan to being banished from the doghouse, literally to wonder if the talk of castrating the pair was ever gonna die down. The bitches, correction, the females of the clan, drank some funny water. A lazy hospital intern dropped the excess fertility pills in the nearest stream, upstream from the Inuzuka clan's property instead of properly disposing of them. The attack of the feral cats terrified the other potential males away. Kiba and his longtime ninkin, Akamaru, happened to walk in from a 2-month A-ranked mission hunting down a Rouge ninja, just when all the females in the Inuzuka clan, both human and canine, went into heat and needed an alpha male to sat their urges. In a clan where everyone know exactly when the females would go into heat and plan for it, this unplanned heat complicated things a little bit. Instead of ensuring some level of genetic diversity, one man and his nin-kin banged every ready female in the clan. He almost died, but soldier pills mixed with vitamins, extra strength Viagra, ensured that that pair earned their stud, mother, sister, cousin and FCKER badges. That moment was the stuff of every male's, human and canine, fantasy. Inuzuka females were wild in bed and every older female was certified USDA prime grade MILF or GILF. All their lives, the pair dreamt of being the alpha. Now they wished that they got their balls cut a long time ago. In 2.5 months, Akamaru would have to deal with over 24 whelping bitches. In 7 more, Kiba would have to deal with several pregnant females delivering his pups. Worst yet, pregnant Inuzuka females were constantly horny and it was Alpha's job to sat the hormone-fortified sex drives of the females. As a pup, Kiba wondered why his father ran towards the Kyuubi wearing nothing more than a loincloth and carrying a rusty dagger, laughing maniacally about being free. Now, he was wondering if Naruto could let the Kyuubi out for a return engagement. Facing a PM Sing nine-tailed demon fox seems such a paradise compared to the fate awaiting the pair. The pair looked at one another and muttered. Being an alpha male is so troublesome. It was time to refill the ice bags they had placed next to their sore balls. In the distance, one could hear Shikamaru sneeze. The Nara made a mental note to copyright the Nara clan's infamous catchphrase phrase, but then decided that filling out a one-page form and paying 75 ryo to get the trademark on the phrase was too troublesome. Akamaru looked at Kiba. Look on the bright side of life, at least we did not end up like Kakashi. Getting your balls ripped off with a sledgehammer and a board with a rusty nail, or even marrying that Haruno girl, was a paradise versus something so evil that even Orochimaru would awe at the twisted minds that made up Kakashi's prank. The pair quickly changed the topic. Even thinking about it hurt. The docks. Hanabi looked with disdain on the outfit that Konohamaru picked out for her. Burlap rags with a smelly cloth to cover her eyes. There is no way in hell I will be caught dead in those rags, she announced with the traditional Hyuga disdain for dirt. The only thing missing was the HN that the Uchiha clan perfected, but no Hyuga would be caught dead to offer the world a change to confuse them for the Just You Thief clan. Konohamaru looked at the mother of his upcoming child. This is the bloody mist, where they used to slay those with bloodlines. One look at your eyes and you will be. Can you at least get me a clean rag? She whined. Konohamaru had enough. He had risked everything for this, no amount of sex was worth the whining. He lost his temper and snapped at the girl who damned him to an eternity of doom which made the deepest recesses of hell look like paradise. Look, princess. Your daddy wants me dead, or worse, an effing, I mean a non-effing eunuch. I am not waiting for daddy to cut off my balls. If you want to come with me, you will stop acting like daddy's little bitch and grow a pair. Little bitch, I will show you, little bitch. I will. It was as if someone flipped a mood switch inside Hanabi's head. Anger becomes sorrow. Some little imp turned off the ice princess setting into something so dreaded, so feared by many a married male. Someone flipped the rarely used Hyuga emotional meltdown switch. With most females, mood swings do not kick in so early in pregnancy. With the Hyuga, mood swings on the part of females were a way of life, so perfected that an actress on a Spanish-language telenovela would be odd to know that someone can out-drama them while flipping from nice to uberbitch in 0.01 nanoseconds. You don't love me anymore, I loved you. I loved you, and you, sniff, don't love me anymore. It's over, my life is over. Please. Hanabi reached for a kunai she hid under her smock. It was time to bid this cruel world goodbye. Konohamaru quickly grabbed it and twisted it out of her hand. Hanabi collapsed on her knees, brawling, I'm nothing more than some worthless slut. I am not worthy to have your child, please let me end it. Hanabi, stop it. But Hanabi was not listening. This was her chance to act out in all the school plays she was never allowed to perform in because acting was below the dignity of the Hyuga clan. Now she was taking advantage of her one opportunity to brawl out against the injustices of the world by dramatically ranting. I am sorry that I placed itching powder in Iruka-sensei's spare set of clothing. I am sorry that I snuck out to play by the waterfall. I am sorry that I let Hinata-ne-chan take the blame for ripping mom's wedding kimono. I am sorry that I stole Sakura-chan's yaoi yaoi. East Town Construction Boys Yaoi Battle for the Golden Dong and the Westside Fireman Firehose Circle Jerk Competition Limited Edition with the scented lubes and anal beads. I am sorry for spreading the rumor that Nori wore dirty underwear. I am sorry that I told Tanaka that he had to buy pubic hair and glue it to his sorry excuse for a ball sack before he could become a man. I am sorry that I put laxatives in the water cooler in the instructor's break room. I am sorry that I cheated on every exam in the academy by spying on Iruka-sensei's answer key hidden in his desk. I am sorry that I tripped you when you were running away from Iruka-sensei after you used the Warok no Jutsu on the exam. The list of I am so sorries went on and on like a really bad British, worse than iStar or Geely bad comedy skit stuck on a loop feed. Hanabi was confessing to acts so devious that Konohamaru was shocked that the Hyuga princess was a fellow prankster. He thought that Udon and Moegi did it all. If his kid inherited his pranking abilities from holy shit, gods above and demons below. Konohamaru did not know whether to be proud or terribly afraid of the next generation of prank gods growing inside his girlfriend's womb. If he survived, he would have to be ready for an entire village knocking down his door to pay damages. The Sarutobi clan would soon be poorer than the Akemchi clan, and that took a lot since the Akemchi clan paid the food bills for several couple dozen competitive eaters. If his favorite appendage was not at stake, it might be better to let her father kill him. Please, let me end this. I am not supposed to cry, damn it. I am a Hyuga and Hyugas don't cry. Hanabi was letting out the waterworks. Inside her body, her tear ducts, never used before, were now letting go tears that could fuel a flood of biblical proportions. I am worthless as a Hyuga. They are so perfect. They can do no wrong. They just are. I just wanted to be free. I just wanted to be able to play in the water without someone saying how disgraceful it was to act like a peasant. Konohamaru tried to quiet the girl before she would attract an audience. Nevertheless, the more he tried to comfort her, the more she cried. In the academy, if he got the Hyuga Ice Princess to cry in public, the boys would have given 100,000 man points. Now, all that he felt was that the goddess of fortune was deliberately turning him into an utter ass. He had heard about the mood swings, but this was a sign that he was doomed to be the life partner of Hormonzilla, the bearer of estrogen, the madam of killer mood swings, and the fifth rider of the apocalypse, so feared that the four horsemen ride away in fear of her, and the infamous honey-do list. He was dealing with the one thing that even the Kyuubi no Kitsune was deathly afraid of. Hell, even Chuck Norris-sama would get his ass whooped by Hormonzilla. It was barely a week and here she was breaking down. Kami hated him, he knew it. The Anbu Psych Ward. Among the Anbu of Konohagakure, sanity was a luxury. The stress of life and death missions had caused many of Konoha's best to snap and be sent to the padded walls of the Anbu Psych Ward. In fact, there was a betting pool on the life expectancy and sanity of just about every Anbu member. With Konohamaru's prank run, the life expectancy of Kakashi's sanity was expired like the milk in Naruto's old fridge. Kakashi was humming a tuneless melody. He would be rocking himself to sleep in the corner of his padded room if it was not for all the restraints. Inochi looked out the observation window at his latest patient and shuddered. He really did not want to walk into this mind. However, all other therapies were failing. Kakashi had a 1,000 techniques locked up in that mind. Kakashi had to be sane enough to at least write down all the jutsu he stole before being locked up forever in Happy Land, a place where happy ninja were sent to counselors who told them that there were no green men out to castrate them. A mind that once could find refuge in Ika Ika was now ultimately shattered by images of yaoi yaoi hentai mania. It was time to go in and face Kakashi's demons. Inochi decided that he was going to take it slow with this case. Not only would mind walking inside this mind be as dangerous as walking up to the Kyuubi and kicking it where it hurts, but to work quickly meant a lack of billable hours for the semi-retired Jonin turn head shrink. With his little girl getting knocked up with twins, and wanting that big wedding, Inochi need every ryo he could beg, borrow, or steal. If Inochi played his cards right, Kakashi would be worth 1 million, maybe 1,000,005 ryo in billable hours. With his daughter's engagement, Inochi needed all the cash he could get to pay for the wedding. Inochi unconsciously flexed his hands into a position similar to that of a Nara in deep thought. Years of hanging out with the laziest man in the world does rub off. Let us start with word association. I will start with something safe, bunny. Kakashi shuddered and attempted scuttled backwards to the wall, yelling, "You are not getting your sausage between my buns. You are one of them." Inochi took in a deep breath. Every word and phrase Kakashi muttered convinced Inochi that he was going to get more billable hours. Kakashi was going to be a head P-Shrink's wet dream and secure Inochi's retirement. He calmly replied, I meant a rabbit, not buns. You want to screw me like a rabbit. You said buns. You are all the same. Guy, Obito, you all are fanboys. Let's talk about these fanboys. No, Kakashi yelled. For the love of all that is pure and holy, please, no, oh my god. Kakashi mentally went deeper into the rabbit hole and cried. Can you share? Kakashi hummed a tune without a melody. I did not drop the soap, why are you touching me down there? I don't feel well, please Obito, don't Rin, not you too. Kami Rin, you're a futari Haim. Don't feud my ass, I don't swing that way. No way in hell I would let you feud my ass. Please for the love of God, please have mercy. Not up there. I can't be gay. Please, I promise to read Ika Ika, don't let me go gay. Obito, no, not you too Minato sensei, not the 100 years of pain, please Kami, please don't let me become gay, please. I read Ika Ika every day, I do not want to be gay. Oh Kami, please don't let me enjoy it. Orochimaru, you said that it will be our little secret. It was clear that Kakashi was reliving repressed memories that Inochi decided that he would never report to the Hokage. He did not want to mind dive and see, Inochi was a straight man, but as a ninja saw some freaky stuff. It was better to be trapped in the mind of one of Anko guests, than to risk being scared by some memories of dropped soap and your number one fanboy girls beings of indeterminate gender to be more hung than your typical male porn star. The orphanage. Maiko looked out the window at rain. The room was an old boarded-up room that was rumored to be haunted by a young girl who fell to her death over a century ago. The ghost of the little girl was not so bad once you got to know her. They both understood one another. Hell was being lonely while surrounded by a sea of faces. After a few times trying to scare Maiko away from the boarded-up room, the ghost simply let Maiko hang around the haunted room. The ghost understood her in a way that the other kids never would. The other kids called her a freak. They would grab and pull her hair, hide her stuffed, pink killer whale, and do other things to make her life a living hell. The sealed-off room was the only place that she felt safe. Even though it was lonely with only a ghost for company. Maiko closed her eyes, hugged her stuffed toy, and rocked herself in a futile attempt to fail asleep. Why? No one ever told her why. They did not even tell her who her parents were. She could see the lie in the faces of the staff when the staff told her that her parents gave her away so she would have a better future. Last year, a funny-smelling man told her he would love her and adopt her if she would be his special little girl. However, once she did everything a special little girl did no matter how much it feel weird, he left her alone as he picked up another special girl. It was a lie, adults always lie. Even May-sama lies. No one will love me, no one. Once a week the other kids were cleaned up and presented in hopes that someone would adopt them. Older kids would be allowed to go out and seek a master to learn a trade. However, they put her in a room and told her to sit and play with her stuffed, pink, killer whale. They told her that she was being saved for a special purpose. They told her that one day she would be a ninja, as great as any of the 7 swordsmen. There was no future in being one of the bloodline freaks. No one wanted some bloodline bitch in their family. Not even the other child lovers would have anything to do with her. Even the few bloodline families that emerge out of the shadows with the rise of the new Mizukage did not want her. Kids called her a monster, a killer, a demon. The priest in charge of the orphanage would call her a demon's whore's get. She hated the tears. She sniffed trying to hold them back as she hugged her stuffed pink whale. No one wants me, it's better that I simply go away. Then they do not have to worry about getting a blood limit from my cooties. Maiko looked at her meager possessions. She had one gray smock, a threadbare blanket, tatami sandals on the verge of falling apart, her stuffed pink killer whale looking worried at the stuffing leaking out of it, a small roll of bubble wrap, and her jacket. She looked out the window one last time, before relaxing and sliding through the walls. She looked at the ghost one more time. It's okay. You can always come with me, Nene. Thus a ghost and a little girl left the orphanage behind and went to see the world. The market. Konohamaru suppressed a groan. It had taken the promise of extensive retail therapy to get Hanabi out of her funk. It did not matter that Hanabi Hyuga was a unauthorized Konohagakure chunin hiding out in Mizugakure. Hanabi was a female first. As any male can attest, females are genetically wired to go shopping. Stress, no stress, happy, sad, females had this compulsion to shop, especially when they are spending someone else's money. The worst part was that Hanabi was a Hyuga and Hyugas had to be the pickiest shoppers on the planet. Since Hanabi was pretending to be blind, he had to hover over her and act as her seeing eye dog. Now, Konohamaru was starting to feel sorry for the poor guide dogs that the Inuzuka clan gave to ninja blinded in the course of their duties. He looked at the iron plates used to secure the wooden beams of the market stalls and fantasized about repeatedly sticking his head onto an operating meat grinder to dull the pain. Something was not right. His ninja senses were going off like there was a collection of S-ranks nuke nin were after his head. He could feel the presence of the boss, and evil daddy aka the PP amputation expert Heishi Hyuga coming after him from the direction of Wave. Nevertheless, there was something else. Something that made him felt cold and sent silvers up and down his spine. He looked at the girl whose father wanted him dead shop as if they had all the time in the universe. Hurry up and just buy it, princess. Daddy is after us and if we do not move, no more rides on me Pedro. I love me Pedro. There was someone watching him. He knew it. However, he could not react. Hanabi and he were illegally in another ninja village. If they were caught, interrogation would only be the start. They would probably keep Hanabi alive as she had a valuable bloodline that could be used for breeding or ransomed back to the Hyuga clan for a fortune. However, they would ship him to the cage in charge of Iwa to answer for pissing in the sake or worst, sent him wrapped in a pretty pink ribbon to the Hokage for pissing in her sake. Iwa would simply torture him and let him die. Tsunade would work him over, heal him, and get back to using him as a training dummy. That idea to piss in the Hokage's sake no longer seemed such a good idea anymore. It was time to get a move on before castration walked into town and repossessed Konohamaru's third leg. Hurry up Hanabi, we have to get moving. Hanabi carefully felt the weave on both fabrics. She turned towards him and asked, "Does this make me look fat?" No, 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 no. Why do females insist on asking their boyfriends that question? There is no acceptable answer. It is safer to get between the Akemchi clan and the all-you-can-eat buffet at a 4-star barbecue. It is safer to get between a starving pack of Inuzuka nin dogs and a medium-rare porterhouse steak. It is safer to challenge Rock Lee and Maeda Guy to a contest of youth while standing between them. Konohamaru cleared his throat and thought of the appropriate words. What did Grandpa use to say to Grandma? Honey, it makes you look beautiful. Konohamaru forgot the fact that his grandfather feared two things, paperwork multiplying like bunnies and Grandma when she was angry. Living without having a ticked-off wife was a futile quest. Even Grandpa, the professor, could never find a satisfactory answer to the dreaded question. All Grandpa could do was perfect the run like a cat with a pack of hungry dogs on your ass no jutsu, and set new land speed records. The response was not pretty. Konohamaru would forever wonder how Hanabi learned Iruka sensei's demon head no jutsu. What am I to you, some ugly slut you got drunk and knocked up? If I am some freak to you, just tell me. I and my baby will be out of your life forever. I gave you my virginity, I'm carrying your bastard, and you call me ugly. How many cups of sake did you need before you could even stand the sight of me? I hope that you are happy because when I am done with you, my father will be lucky to pick up your corpse with a sponge and microscope. But, honey. There were no buts about it. Hanabi was working herself into a fit. Her head grew to demonic proportions that would even Aruka-sensei. Her voice was approaching the volume normally reserved for the pink-haired harpies from the Haruno clan. Her face turned so red with anger that even experienced Jonin were evacuating the market as they could with no attempt to save their dignity. Her killing intent silenced the entire marketplace. It seemed that a tailed beast was coming into Kumo and she was pissed. She was so angry that she sent all her chakra to her fist as she punched him. It was not a classic Hyuga strike, but rather a blow more commonly associated with a drunken senin known for sending perverts into orbit, or a certain pink-haired medic nin thumping the head of a certain blonde ninja sporting whiskers. Konohamaru flew through 5 stalls before slamming into a brick wall. If it was not a tripled reinforced brick wall of the local police station, he would have flown through it. There was silence as heads peeked out waiting to see if it was safe to shop again. Even the local police found something else more exciting in the coffee-stained reports on their desk than the broken body of a boy who was stuck with Hormonzilla, the estrogen queen. Paper cuts hurt. Hormonzilla set the standard of the concept of eternal damnation. After a minute, a brave soul extended his hand toward the unfortunate father-to-be. Dude, what is her boggle? She asked me, do I look good in this? Konohamaru moaned. The helpful soul shook his head in sympathy. There is no good answer to that question, dude. Does she have a sister? Married. Does her sister beat down her brother-in-law? Konohamaru thought for a minute before answering, not directly, but, yep, he is whipped. That should have been your warning. I hope the sex was good because the pain is soon not worth it. I would say that I feel your pain, bro, but it would be a lie. Thanks. Just watch out. When they pull out their husband tamer, it's game over. Might as well lube up, relax, and cough twice because it's gonna hurt. It's already game over. I should just let her daddy kill me. Nope. Daddy will take one look, laugh, and let you suffer for the rest of your life. He ain't letting you off so easy. Konohamaru groaned out in thanks before passing out, wondering what is worse, castration or dealing with Hormonzilla for the rest of his life. If Konohamaru were still conscious, he would have felt the god of dooms coming down to rain down more doom on his already doomed soul. The ghosts of the Sarutobi clan shuddered in sympathy at the hell that the only living Sarutobi male will have to endure. There was one collective thought among the ghost of Konohamaru's male ancestors: why oh why did you have to knock up a Hyuga? At least with a Haruno, the worst thing that will happen is that you will eventually go deaf from all the screaming, a coma from getting whacked on the head, and your soul sucked dry by a banshee. With a Hyuga, you got to spend eternity with a devout follower of the goddess of husband beating. Generations of Sarutobi males wept at the fact that their last was fated to be a Hyuga whipping boy. Nearby, sneaking out of the orphanage was easy when no one really cared about you. Maiko looked at the blind girl who knocked out her boyfriend and cleared out the market. The 4-year-old thought really hard about her options. Sure, she was not yet 6. However, she was smart enough to know that she needed someone older to cook and clean for her at least until she was 8 and got to go to Mina-sensei's housekeeping class. They were not as big as those lying adults, but big enough to protect her. The orphanage would not let adults see her during adoption day. However, maybe if she could get that lady who just beat up the man to adopt her, the orphanage staff could not stop her from having a mommy or at least an older sister. If she could become the little sister to that girl, then no one would steal her toy or pull her hair or risk getting the beat down. If she could get that lady to want her, if anyone said no, that lady would beat the stuffing out of the lady who ran the orphanage like she did that rude boy. It was perfect. Maiko would have a sister and that blind girl would be it. Maiko knew that if she approached now, they could say no. However, if she followed them long enough, she could, maybe, definitely. This was her only chance. Maiko hated waiting, but 4 years at the orphanage taught her that waiting allows you to pull the best pranks. But first, Maiko was on a mission from the gods, steal all the bubble wrap she can before she follows the pair out of town. Anko had her dango. Naruto had ramen. Maiko had bubble wrap. Sure, you could not eat it, normally, but that is what they said about licking the peeling lead-based paint on the walls or drinking the sweet syrup from the bottles with the skulls and bones under the kitchen sink. Maiko managed to enjoy all three activities, but lived solely for popping the bubbles in bubble wrap. Maiko pulled out a small 1-foot square piece. She pushed a bubble. It swelled with the anticipation within her until the all-too-familiar sound of happiness. The bubble popped. A small giggle snuck out into the air. It was time to pop the next bubble. Maiko danced and sang the "I'm a Bubble Girl" song, as she picked the next bubble to be popped. Back in Wave with Big Daddy and Ramen Boy, Hyuga Heishi was not known for losing his composure in public. When the Kyuubi no Kitsune came to Konoha raining hellfire and brimstone, he merely ordered his clan to evacuate the civilians and go into the shelter. Then, he walked towards the Kyuubi no Kitsune calmly muttering about rubbing the 9-tailed fox's nose in his own shit. He considered being surrounded by 24 Kumo Jonin level nin with the intent to harvest his eyes as the prelude to a light warm-up stretch. Hell, he even walked up to an angry, charging bull and knocked it out without the use of the Jiyuken. Heishi was the only Jonin other than Kushina Uzumaki that was brave enough to risk the wrath of the 4th Hokage, the only nin to have a standing flee-on-sight order in the bingo book, by pulling Minato Namikaze from the ramen stand and dragging the 4th kicking and screaming to council meetings. No matter what the problem was, Heishi not only solved it but solved it without mussing his hair, getting his kimono dirty, or compromising the Hyuga reputation for cool, aloof, and not one hair out of place dignity. Even Chuck Norris-san looked at Heishi as a model of what a man should be, and death once almost had a Chuck Norris experience. The only reason that Heishi could not figure out a way to save his brother from seppuku was that his twin brother, a fellow badass, knocked him out with a steel bridge girder until the deed was complete. Today, Heishi was anything but composed. It took 4.5 decades of practicing the legendary Hyuga version of self-control to not rip off his Anbu mask and let loose with the Hyuga clan's ultimate kinjutsu, the Hyuga summon Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee to end this universe. Not only was he given a bill to replace a dozen cases of the world's most expensive sake, but also found out that his son-in-law, Naruto, was sitting on a gold mine and did not see the opportunity. Heishi Hyuga's finely tuned merchant senses were tingling. Hyugas did not need the all-seeing eyes to spot a money-making opportunity. If he had known that his son-in-law had inherited the formula of the legendary Onikaroshi sake from Kushina Uzumaki, he would have had ordered Hinata to get knocked up by his idiotic, orange-wearing son-in-law while she was still in the academy. Hell, he would order Hinata to give him several dozen grandchildren even if it meant fornicating in public. Hell, the elders would have offered the Uzumaki brat both his daughters. Hitomis will be damn. The rights, if properly managed, to produce the famed Uzu sake was worth billions, if not trillions of ryo. The Hyuga could have the world's largest brewing empire. But no. Heishi made a mental note to have a conversation with Naruto about any other secrets locked inside that thick skull of his. While Hinata and her kids were technically and legally members of the Uzumaki Namikaze clan, in Heishi's mind, they were Hyugas, with just a different legal name. His ancestors did not spend generations climbing out of some brothel, conquering Wave, surviving being on top of the Uchiha hit list, almost wiped out, conning the Senju clan, and becoming the wealthiest family in the world, to see his daughter marry a pauper. He did not want to see his grandkids raised in poverty should Naruto's legendary luck run out. The insurance companies had a ninja clause that did not cover ninja when they took B, A, and S class missions. With Naruto's reputation, all he was doing was S class missions. At least with the money from the Namikaze estate, Jiraiya Sensei's books, and being legitimized as Tsunade's grandson, Naruto had enough to make sure that Hinata and any grandchildren would be comfortable. However, Hyugas never slacked when it came to making money. More than once, The Hyuga endured financial ruin, and by hard work, the clan surmounted the odds and took back their wealth with excessive interest. With the formula for Uzu's legendary Oninokiroshi sake, the Hyuga could buy, sell, and trade dynamos. The Hyuga did not seek to become Kages. They merely settled for owning the dynamos that hired the hidden villages to do their dirty deeds. For Hinata, it worked out better than Heishi planned. Hinata was smart enough to pick the right material for a husband. Lots of endurance, high pain tolerance, easy to wrap around her finger, able to take the random abuse that even a gentle Hyuga girl, like Hinata, instinctively inflicts on her lover, and rich. Hanabi, Heishi thought, would be smart enough to take control in her relationship. However, looking at the note she left, she is keeping that baka like some sucker picks up a stray mongrel mutt. In 1 millisecond, Hanabi threw out generations of Hyuga tradition and is following the will of a husband. Nowhere in the book of Hyuga law does it say, "Woman, follow the will of thy idiot husband." The book of Hyuga law stated, "A whipping or 3 a day keeps impotency at bay," or, "Pepper and spice makes that burning oh so nice." Hell, the book described how to perfectly mix the brine and hot pepper oil to create the paste that not only kept infection at bay, but gave the unlucky husband that burning sensation of love, the burning sensation that even made a guy would readily admit burned hotter than the flames of youth. Heishi had willingly suffered for Hitomi. She loved whipping him in her sleep in between his endurance training sessions. He was the uber tantric master because Hitomi loved him enough to give him the discipline needed to perform for his Hyuga goddess. Even now, Heishi could go a week without sleep. Now, some Sarutobi brat is getting Hyuga Puntang without receiving a daily beat down with the cat o' nine tails. Blasphemy, blasphemy, the type of blasphemy that would get one reincarnated as some single-celled organism. Konohamaru had blasphemed against the ways of the Hyuga. He had yet to kiss the whip before handing it to his better and ask for more training. Konohamaru did not love his daughter. Love was accepting all the punishment that Hanabi would inflict out of love. Love was begging his better half for more discipline. Love was subjugating your identity as a person and accepting that you only existed to accept her love and lashes. Konohamaru was not worthy to get his balls stepped on by a 500-pound walrus wearing high heels, let alone share his DNA with Hanabi. That asshole. That no-good son of a bitch who would fuck a man from behind and not even give an uke the courtesy of a reach around. Not only did he violate my daughter and knock her up, he had the gall to brainwash her not to subject him to husband training. My wife will beat the crap out of me for letting this happen. I am so going to give Konohamaru an old-school Hyuga interrogation that will scare the hell out of Ibiki and Anko. By the time I am done, he will not even try to beg for death because he will know that death is so far too good for a cockroach like him. It had been a century since the Hyuga were allowed in the interrogation business. The Hyuga were good, so good that the treaty between the Senju and Uchiha clans specifically forbid the use of Hyuga as interrogators for the Senju clan. The women of the Hyuga clan had developed a reputation for breaking the will of others and turning them into fanatical worshippers who would die for their mistresses. For generations, the Hyuga were a matriarchic clan where young females would capture, enslave, and break the wills of at least 4 strong males before being allowed to breed. The ancient Hyuga motto was, "Pain created hate, which in turn becomes love, because we only truly hurt the ones we love." This motto would be the central concept behind the traditional Hyuga husband training program. When it was time to have a child, the males would fight to the death and only the strongest would be allowed to breed and raise the girls, before being broken and killed by their own daughters as a training session of what to do to husbands. Boys, for generations, were killed until the wars with the Uchiha clan depleted the numbers and the females had to keep the male children to preserve the bloodline. Generations of selective breeding ensured that the girls of the Hyuga clan were naturals at breaking the will of and converting the loyalty of the most fanatical agent, even though now those skills were only used to break the wills of their boyfriends and husbands. The Hyuga clan tend to intermarry, not because incest is best, but the fact that 3 dozen generations of selective breeding created the Hyuga male, a well-endowed male with a high pain threshold, quick recovery times, a healing ability that is only dwarfed by Naruto's, lots of endurance, very dexterous and lengthy tongues that were only dwarfed by Orochimaru and his illegitimate daughter, Anko, and the ability to survive the traditional Hyuga husband training program. The clan did make sure that marriages were more of the my cousin's 6 generations removed brother-in-law's step-sister's second cousin's niece, rather than the brother-sister type depicted in incest ficts. The few times that someone married into the family either ended with a corpse or a husband that was one step from being committed to the ninja mental ward because they were unable to endure the mental strain of a little love from their wives. Toss in the fact that many Hyuga females were active swingers. A man not only had to survive his wife, but his sister-in-law, mother-in-law, cousin, cousin sister, brother's wife, great-aunts, and the other female-in-laws. There was a reason that many Hyuga males decide it is better to be gay and promptly shove a 10-foot broomstick up his ass. This far too frequent act made the lives of straight Hyuga males more interesting since they had to service more Hyuga females. There was no worse curse among Hyuga males than to wish a harem on a fellow Hyuga man. Hyuga man law was explicitly clear about this point. Hyuga males are never to toss a foe into a harem of randy Hyuga females. The castration strike was kinder to a foe. If it was not for the ancient Hyuga man code, Heishi would toss Konohamaru, tied up, naked into the next Hyuga karaoke and swingers night. Let him feel the doom as 3 generations of Hyuga females tear into the new kid. The blood will flow as they show him what real Hyuga love is. Heishi could almost hear Konohamaru's pleas for mercy as some Hyuga grandmother with sagging tits would twist off the lad's ears commanding the lad to lick harder down there while Heishi's great auntie Wu pulls out her cat o' nine tails and scourges the impotency out of his hide. If this kept on, Heishi would ignore the code and toss that little brat into the briar patch. Heishi's great-aunt Wu lived for nothing more than breaking the will of some young stud. With the Hyuga tendency to have 2 girls for every boy, the little brat would be very busy for a while. There will be justice, the kind that keeps on hurting and not the good kind of hurt, but the kind of hurt that will make the gods of hell cry out in pain and sympathy. It was time to pick up the pace. Heishi knew the pair's next destination, the village hidden in the mists. He would find the brat there, drag the pair back home, and toss the father of his grandchild to the Auntie Wu for re-education. Fuck the Hyuga man code. Auntie Wu is going to have a new boy toy for Christmas. Here is a treat for my loyal readers, a deleted scene. Somewhere in the heavens, the Shinigami looked over at the rest of the gods that ran the universe and shuddered. If I did not know better, it would look exactly like a bunch of little kids jostling over the last candy bar on Earth. The gods were climbing over one another to view the window to the Earth. They were laughing their asses off as they laid down bets on just how far the god of misfortune would go before one Konohamaru would attempt to summon the Shinigami and the means by which the lad would do it. The Shinigami was upset. By his calendar, the lad was long overdue for his final reckoning. However, due to the size of the betting pool, the Shinigami was told to stand down until the lad attempted to off himself before collecting. The god of death looked at the horde and examined the odds. He was the god of death, he could jimmy with the odds. It was time to go all in on the long shot. The Shinigami resisted the urge to smile. I bet that he will not only piss in each cage's sake cup and on the face of at least 2 cage, but also live to 103. The other gods moaned. The Shinigami was announcing that the fix was in. However, being retarded is being in the bottom quartile of your species with respect to intelligence. If you need a translation of the above, please call yourself special. Even in a group of immortals, there were a couple retards. The god of lost causes, god of suckers, Tsunade's personal deity, and god of the mentally challenged felt lucky for the first time in 100,000 years and bet against the god of death. The other gods looked at the goddess of pain. She was gloating. One by one, The gods started betting just how much abuse the kid would survive. The Shinigami was awed by some of the ideas of how to maximize pain as the goddess of pain shook her head. The Hyuga are mine, my followers. That is an early morning kiss before the first sip of coffee. The Shinigami shook his head. There definitely were things worse than death. Being married to the goddess of pain was second to the boy's fate of being hitched to the hormone bitch. He eyed his wife's face. The cat o' nine tails was only the beginning tonight. It was moments like this that the Shinigami wondered why he was dumb enough to believe that sex with the goddess of pain would not hurt. He was not the first of his kind, and his sire taught him that free sex was the most expensive sex in the universe. 200,000 years later, he was still paying the price for that one-night stand. There were moments he envied the god of celibacy and the patron saint of eunuchs. Sarutobi Konohamaru was a ninja from a family of ninjas. He intellectually knew the dangers of being a ninja. He had witnessed his grandfather and uncle die in the line of duty. He had his assets locked in a clan trust account, safe from both creditors and court judgments, a pour-over will, disability and health insurance policy, and a 25 million Ryo life insurance policy. In case of capture, he had a Class A explosive tag ready to ensure that his remains would be atomized before they could haul him in for interrogation. Lastly, he had his lucky condom in his wallet. The source of his problems was that his lucky condom was still in his wallet and therefore obviously was not properly placed on his tallywhacker when he scored with the most eligible kunoichi in the village, Hyuga Hanabi, a week ago. Now our unlucky ninja was hiding in the hidden mist village from Heishi, Big Daddy, Hyuga, master of the infamous Hyuga castration strike and bearer of the traditional, rusty Hyuga spoon. The Hyugas believe in long, agonizing lingering punishment and so used a dull rusty spoon rather than the more common family sword to deal with daughters' boyfriends who found their tallywhacker entering in the inappropriate hole. Worse, the mother of his coming child just gave him a Tsunade-style beatdown because he could not complete the impossible task, a creature with the Y chromosome, aka a male, reading the mind of a girl and saying just the right thing. Interested in preserving his ability to reproduce, our intrepid narrator shuts up as we rejoin our protagonists. Marketplace, Kurigakure, the village hidden in the mist. Konohamaru, the stunned nin staggered upwards. The earth was moving. 2 steps and gravity slammed him into the ground with all the grace of a drunken elephant trying to do the tango. It was like a bad hangover, just without the aftertaste of alcohol, the tattoo of unknown origin, and the wonderment of what video would be soon posted on idiot. Tube showing just how stupid he was to drink. Konohamaru looked himself over and sighed, no tattoo. Hanabi looked at the father of her unborn child and prayed that her child would hopefully inherit the brains from her side of the family. It was obvious that Konohamaru was dropped one too many times as a baby. She had once thought that Konohamaru was only the class dobi, dead last, in honor of his mentor and rival, Naruto. No, she knew the truth. He was the one defective child that crops up even in the best of families. It was just her luck to get drunk with the wrong Sarutobi. Hell, even Konohamaru's 2-year-old cousin was far smarter than this. His latest offense, failure to properly reassure her that she was still beautiful, no matter how fat and pregnant she was, even though she was only a week along and would not be showing her baby bump for a while. After the beatdown, Hanabi planned to find an ice cream parlor and eat all the chocolate chip ice cream. Fat, she will show him what fat really was. Her great-grandmother was an Akemchi. It is a known fact that the Akemchi clan is the provider of the genes that gave Hanabi's sister and a great number of her cousins an enhanced version of the true Hyuga bloodline. Can you say boobies? Now say it 3 times, I bet you smiled. Now, Hanabi was going to show that monkey just how an Akemchi female deals with stress, competitive eating, the awe-inspiring competitive eating that would make any male Akemchi either fall in love or cry because when it came to eating the females ate twice as much as the men. Hanabi grabbed the unfortunate soul doomed to foot her bills for the rest of his life and started dragging her victim along the ground towards the ice cream stand. It was not mercy, Someone was going to pay for her ice cream therapy and it was not going to be her. Besides the time to grow her boobs because every Konoha Konichi knew that boobs gives girls super strength. Mikawaya ice cream stand. Maiko looked wishfully at her future Nichan, older sister, as Nichan dragged, stupid boy, to Hirohito's ice cream stand. Maiko remembered the one time she got an ice cream bar. Stupid boys. She remembered Gyubaka smashing her hands and ice cream into her face and that evil matron scolding her for being so messy and clumsy. Maiko hated stupid boys and wanted to beat up stupid boys like Nichan. She wanted to walk up, to have Nichan treat her to ice cream. However, no one, not even Nichan, would give a bad girl like Maiko a treat. Only good girls get treats. Bad girls like Maiko get scoldings, whippings, or are locked in their room without supper. No matter how hard she tried, Maiko was a bad girl. She was bad, she was clumsy. She did not speak right. She was so stupid that she did not get her hiragana right. She could not read like the older kids. She was not even good enough to get milk and cookies. The other kids get milk and cookies and got to enjoy story time. All she got was a metal ruler on the butt for being bad and put in her room. Bad, 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 bad Maiko. Stupid Maiko. Even more double plus dumber than the double plus stupid double plus poo-poo head, snail-eating boys with cooties. The 4-year-old bit her lip trying not to cry as the voices in her head yelled at her for being stupid. She should go away so her stupid cooties do not infect the other kids with her stupid blood limit. Maiko hugged her pink, stuffed toy whale a little tighter in an attempt to hold back the tears. Shachi-chan, killer whale, looked a little worried as some stuffing attempted to escape out of her overstressed ancient seams. Suddenly, Shachi-chan exploded. Shachi-chan's seams gave out just when Maiko needed Shachi-chan the most. It was too much for the 4-year-old girl. Shachi-chan and the occasional sheet of bubble wrap were the two constants in her life that made her happy. Instinctively, Maiko started crying uncontrollably, hoping that someone would fix Shachi-chan. The others took one look at her and walked away. They always walked away. Suddenly, someone picked up Maiko. "There you are," gruffed the voice of the evil child hunters. No matter how many times she attempted to escape, the one-armed child hunter hunted her down and took her back to the bad place where everyone laughed at her. Maiko was scared. No one saved for Mayo Nissan picked her up and hugged her. No, the others would pick her up only to take her back to the place with poo-poo head boys and doll-killing girls. She did not want to go back. The adults were going to hurt her. Let the stupid boys and older girls pull her hair. Maiko had to protect Shachi-chan, killer whale, her only pal. Unless she could see Mei-san, Auntie Mei, they were going to take Shachi-chan away. They were going to give Shachi-chan to one of the good girls. Then the good girl would then tear Shachi-chan apart and throw her away like they did to Ino-san, Mrs. Piggy, and Kamito no Keiru, Kermit the Frog. Maiko had to get away. Suddenly, Maiko got light and dizzy in an all-too-familiar way as she fell through the grip of her captor. Her ability to pass through things and people was not yet certain, but when she felt lightheaded, she knew that she could pass through things for a few moments. She knew that she had to run the moment she hit the ground and become heavy again or she would not be able to run away. As soon as she hit the ground, Maiko turned heavy and started running. As anyone who has kids can attest, nothing is faster than a kid running away. The problem was that kids did not have the stamina of ninjas. "Get back here," a gruff voice commanded. Maiko could hear her heart screaming as she felt the footsteps of the child hunter chasing her. Maiko ran through the wall and kept on running. Stupid one-armed monster could not run through walls. Crash. There were screams as people saw her being chased by the one-armed monster. She could run through walls, but he crashed through them. It was useless. She would run, but he will keep up with her until she could no longer pass through walls. Then he was going to take her back to the orphanage where they would laugh at her. Just before Hanabi sets the world ice cream eating record. Hanabi heard the screams. Someone just boldly grabbed at little girl and Hyuga had rules. There were thousands of rules and traditions covering everything from who stood up when someone else entered the room to the 135 proscribed steps for properly grooming one's hair every morning. However, rule number 1 was that child abuser or kidnapper, especially those that hit or abducted a Hyuga child, got a taste of Hyuga justice, long, drawn out, terrifying Hyuga justice preferably with a rusty spoon. No one was going to steal a child in front of Hanabi. What if that monster hit her child, or worse kidnap that little girl and breed her? Sick bastard would probably scoop out her eyes and screw the eye sockets. It was the ultimate fear of many Hyuga girls. To not only be stolen from your sisters, but be forced to be subservient to men, have your eyes taken out and being fornicated in the eye sockets. The horror stories inevitably get a little exaggerated in the retelling and then toss in Hanabi's repressed imagination getting free and oral sex turned into eye socket penetration. Furthermore, no Hyuga girl would even stoop so low as to think of themselves as equals to boys. Why would any self-respecting female insist on lowering themselves to the level of some stupid male? No. There is no creature higher in the universe than a female, and a Hyuga female tops them all. Even the Kyuubi had girl power. It was just that when Madara summoned her, the fox has a bad case of PMS and someone took away her chocolate ice cream. That monster was going down. Kidnapping was an act so terrible that only child mutilation, child rape and murder was worse. Orochimaru never had a chance at being Hokage because the Hyuga clan would call in every det to keep that creepy child fondler off the dais. And if that did not work, the Hyuga would go to war. Hyuga may love profits, but they will financially crush anyone who kidnapped or harbor someone who kidnaps children. Gato ran away to wave and set up a blockage to not squeeze the local economy but rather to run away from the Hyuga clan. And once the Hyuga got their hands on a kidnapper, Orochimaru's test subjects had an infinitely better quality of life. Hanabi tossed the ice cream vendor a wad of 100 ryo bills and stared chasing after that child abuser. A glimpse told her that Konohamaru was stumbling behind her in a futile effort to keep up. She noted with some level of satisfaction that the idiot father of her child was at least smart enough to grab the 5 reusable insulated bags each loaded with her 12, hand-packed, pints of Funky Monkey triple fudge ice cream with marshmallows plus 6 squeeze bottles of Nestle chocolate syrup, fat-free, of course, so the calories don't count. Thoughts of an eternal genin. Ichiko Matsumura hated his job and his life for good reason. First, his father ran out on his mother when she was pregnant with him. This was far too common a story for ninjas, but most mothers did not get vengeance by abandoning their newborn sons at the marketplace with a girl's name pinned to his diaper. Being the orphan boy with a girl's name in the ninja academy was not easy. If Zabuza did not kill his entire academy class in the prior year, Ichiko would have slaughtered the 60 other candidates for laughing at him when he introduced himself on the first day of the academy. Second, he was the Mist Village's eternal genin and doomed to performing D-rank missions for the rest of his life. As a young genin, he insulted the wrong lady while off duty. He woke up 2 days later and he found himself missing an arm. Since it was not a job-related injury, he could not retire and collect a disability pension. Quitting meant having to pay back those student loans that all Mist Ninja endured. As long as he was a ninja, he could defer those loans, and if he made it for 5 more years, the village would pay off his loan balance for 20 years of service and give him a service-length promotion to Chunin so he could spend the rest of his days in a nice safe office working as a bureaucrat and maybe after 30 years of service collect a decent pension. However, losing an arm meant that his ninja skills were compromised. Even with one-handed seals, his ninjutsu and taijutsu skills were severely handicapped. Only a madman would risk life and limb by entering the Chunin exam with only one arm. A one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest has a better chance of winning. He was not a chunin and able to get a full-time position pushing paperwork at the Mizukage's office, so he was stuck on jobs like babysitting kids or listening to the complaints at the mission's desk. Today was just like any other day. Wake up. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Get ready for work. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Go to work at the mission desk. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Listen to baby-faced genin fresh from the academy complain about their missions and clients complain about the mission fees. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Take on the one-time sensitive D rank that was not picked up in the morning. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Babysit a rich merchant's brat. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Collect his payment voucher which seemed to be shrinking every time. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Stand in line at the bank to cash his payment voucher. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Go home. Contemplate the joys of seppuku as he tries to deal with the ever-growing honey-do list. Spot an all too familiar kid outside the orphanage. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Decide if he was even going to bother returning the kid back to the orphanage. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. Contemplate the joys of seppuku. It was a little troublesome, but the only thing that sucked more than being a village's eternal genin was being the guest of honor at a torture and interrogation session. There was a pattern, the finger of fate gang banging his ass throughout Ichiko's life, and contemplating the joys of seppuku was his way of dealing with it. If he did not knock up his now hideous, hormonal wife one drunken night so many years ago and now have to feed half a dozen obnoxious brats, Ichiko would have already done it. Now he was hanging on, so he continued to torture the soul-sucking banshee with his continued existence. He was going to deny her the opportunity to cash in on his life insurance policy and let her become a rich bitch with a paid-for-boy toy. No, he was going to live long enough to make sure that she would never enjoy one ryo from his life insurance policy. He would spite her until she would be the one to load her pockets with stones and jump off the pier. As Ichiko decided to give chase, he thought about the sake he would drink at his seppuku. It had to be a good sake. Expensive since they only let him have 4 sips, so it had to be quality. And then the waka. 5 lines of 5, 7, 7, 5, and 7 syllables. Should he select a second or go totally badass by performing Jumanji Jiri, or seppuku without a second to cut off his head and end the pain? It would hurt, but it could not hurt as much as 15 years of slow death with that she which he knocked up all those years ago. Plus the man points for going out like a badass. If only they let him volunteer for a suicide mission and change the beneficiary on his life insurance policy to be anyone but his leech of a wife. Now that he contemplated the joys of ritual disembowelment, Ichiko now had to deal with the issue of the little brat that obviously escaped the orphanage. It was not that he hated kids, he just hated all of humanity and little kids more than most. No. With this kid, if he did not fetch her now, he was going to be stuck looking for her tomorrow. This kid was too valuable to lose. The previous Mizukage had nearly wiped out all the bloodlines in the Mist village, and it would be generations before Mist could recover. The village could not afford to lose any more than it did. Might as well get her back to the orphanage now and collect the fee on the standing D rank mission. It might not be much, but an extra D rank meant more sake to dull the phantom pain from his missing arm and his fate in this life. He sighed, briefly contemplated seppuku, and decided to get her. Being a father of 6, he had enough experience to know how to approach the tyke. He just had to get close enough to bribe the child with a couple sheets of bubble wraps. He might have had bad luck, but he was smart enough to know that you do not yell at little kids if you want them to come to you. He called out to her as he reached into his messenger bag to pull out some bubble wrap. However, she screamed and started running. It looked like that she wanted to play tag today. Damn, the brat ran before I could pull out the bubble wrap. It was not going to be an easy day. It never was. He would have to run her down and tag her before she would give up. She thought it was a game of tag and wanted Uncle Ikoko to play with her. Cue the music and start the chase. At the Mizukage's office. Today was good day for the current Mizukage. May had dealt with, or at least delegated the issues that turned up on her desk in record time. Her staff was working efficiently. The Academy staff was predicting greater than expected pass rates for this year's Academy class while actually increasing the quality of Academy graduates. Her two daughters were on a routine patrol assignment with their genin teams and would make it home tonight for a rare sit-down dinner. Dinner was waiting in the crock pot and the rice cooker with automatic timer would have the rice ready just in time. Today was the first day that May could relax in a long time. May sipped her tea. The land of snow, now the land of spring, cultivated a unique tea that simultaneously allowed for relaxation and encouraged concentration. It was used by grand masters of monasteries, dynamos, and the richest of richest nobles. 1 ounce of the tea traded for 5 ounces of gold. However, sipping the rare tea, May could not relax. It was not something that she could consciously, definitively point out. However, a couple decades of being a ninja and a cage with 2 bloodlines in a village known for hating bloodlines gave May the ability to sense impending doom. Doom was ringing the bell, but no one could interpret the message. The chase. The crowd parted as if the spirit of Zabuza Momochi came back from the grave in order to finish off the village like he finished off his graduating class. Everyone dived into doorways and windows. 3 more steps, 2 more, reach out. Ichiko did not know what was chasing him and why. Everyone knows that good old Ichiko would catch up to the child and bribe her with bubble wrap. It was as effective as bribing Naruto with freshly cooked ramen and the results were just as predictable. For many years, there would be debates about the events that occurred. Some say that Kami, herself, stepped down from the heavens wrath with great vengeance and furious anger. Some said that a new Biju-tailed beast arose from the depths of hell. Another stated that a comet fell from the heavens. Long after ninjas fade from history, folklore, and legends, scholars would argue what happened then fateful day. It was the battle of 2 avatars. The goddess of youth versus the god of the wrongfully punished squared off. The goddess of youth's avatar leapt up into the heaven and summoned the double-dreaded Megaton Power Fist. The god of the wrongfully punished avatar, not sensing impending doom, focused his entire attention on completing this D-rank mission. He grasped the child and started to promise her a treat and some bubble wrap if only she would return back to the orphanage. The double-dreaded Megaton Power Fist smacked into the skull of the one-armed avatar. A mushroom cloud arose over the mist village as survivors ducked, dropped, and covered. The earth shook. A strong flash permanently burned shadows against walls. The one-armed avatar collapsed as if he was a Suna puppet and his master cut the chakra string. 1,000 miles away, Suna puppeteers shook in instinctive fear and in the afterward Sasori crapped himself as he attempted to crawl away from the blue fairy who only wanted to make him a real boy. The child turned around and started crying. Bad girl, you hurt Ichiko-ji-san. The avatar of the goddess of youth stood still, shocked. She only tried to. Hanabi suddenly started crying. The hormones and stress of the last week overcame her. I'm sorry, so sorry, I can't do anything right. Who am I to raise a child when I cannot even, forgive me? The little girl was stunned. There was a lady who was sadder than her. Here Lady San, hug Shachi-chan. She makes all the tears go away. No one can cry when hugging Shachi-chan, the little girl said as she held out a pink killer whale who was apparently losing all its stuffing. You need Shachi-chan to make you felt better. Konohamaru wondered if somehow this vision was the result of being hit by a genjutsu during the Chunin exams. One of his opponents tried, but he thought that he threw it off before he used the headhunter jutsu and a couple clone with a hammer to play whack-a-mole with his opponent just like he used to do at the carnival as a kid. If it was, he wondered just how his opponent could craft this nightmare. Sucker the target with a vision of heaven that turns into hell. He reached out towards the pink whale to feel it. Tactile genjutsu were almost impossible to pull off without a bloodline. He almost made contact when something made contact with his head and gravity knocked him into the ground. Stupid boy, I only share Miss Shachi with crying girl, not stupid, poo-poo head, double poo-poo head boys like you, nose-picking troll. Even Goya Baka knows to not touch Shachi can. The little girl's voice was getting more agitated as her eyes and face took on a demonic hue. She was starting to growl at him. It was like that one time that someone attempted to ban ramen in Konoha. Konohamaru was male, but unlike Boss, he still had enough gray between the ears to know that he could not afford another entity chasing him down. Wordlessly he handed the little girl one of Hanabi's ice cream containers and a spoon. Baka. Thankfully, the brain forgets what happens about 10 to 15 seconds before knockout. Konohamaru did not remember what happened afterwards. On the boat to wave, Hiyashi looked with evil glee at the mushroom cloud on the horizon. The vein on the forehead, just above the bridge of the nose, was throbbing rhythmically, with an unholy intensity not even the ancient gods whose cruelty was unbound could match. The old Jonin's hands were rubbing together in sweet anticipation of making a certain monkey into a stuffed trophy on his mantle. The grin on the old man's face was unsettling. Naruto suppressed the urge to gulp, jump over the side of the boat, water run to the nearest temple, and become a celibate monk in an attempt to escape the killing intent of his father-in-law. Kyubi was thankful that Minato Namikaze got to him first before he encountered his vessel's mate's father. The man had to be reincarnation of Shiva, the destroyer of worlds. The fox now knew that the old Hyuga would have turned him into a rug and his tails into stuffed foxes for the Hyuga girls. Sailors on deck and below resisted the urge to make the sign for protection from demons, for the king of demons, with the all-seeing eyes of hell, was standing on the tip of the bowsprit demanding that the captain and crew throw on more sail and more ballast overboard in order to speed up the ship. He laughed at stormy sea and thunderous clouds, daring, no double daring them to even think of thwarting his quest for summoning forth eternal pain to the boy who took advantage of his baby. The captain watched as his sailors threw perfectly good cargo overboard in an attempt to lighten the ship, his hand clutching the check that the Hyuga wrote, wondering what idiot inspired the most dangerous man in the world to chase after him. The captain looked at the stormy sky and prayed that that old man's viciousness would give the gods of storm and thunder pause while his boat was bobbing on the seas. Konohagakure. Tsunade carefully examined the 6 winning lottery numbers and compared it to the lottery ticket in her hand. For 6 months, no one won the Powerball lottery and the prize grew to over 5 billion ryo. Now she had the ticket that could pay for all the repairs and upgrades necessary. Normally, most Kage would celebrate the end of funding problems for their villages. However, Tsunade, Shizune, Sakura, and the Anbu looked at one another. Nothing good ever came when Tsunade wins a large pile of money. Mizugakure, from the view of Konohamaru's inner, yes, it is a mad scientist. And one time, I wrapped the toilet in plastic wrap and that meanie Miss Roach sat on it and peed all over, and then another time I put salt in the boy's toothbrush, and then another time I swirled the girl's toothbrush in my pee-pee water, and then Maiko was talking on and on while somehow devouring the ice cream and stealing Hanabi's heart, while Konohamaru wondered just how he was going to tell his girlfriend that they could not adopt a child in the same manner as one adopts a lost kitten. Especially a child that could be Naruto's reincarnation. If only Naruto was dead, if he could reincarnate. If Naruto did reincarnate, could he reincarnate as a 5-year-old? Another existential question that would require an experiment. Naruto was a cool Ni-chan, but it was science. Konohamaru could already imagine talking to Boss about that experiment. Renounce this experiment lest the spirit of Orochimaru corrupts you and you start giving little boys hickeys and inviting them over to your hidden village for a sleep-in. Naruto would initially reply to Konohamaru requests. Sorry, boss, I cannot be corrupted by science, and science alone can answer these questions. Then you are mad. Mad as playing with this insanity-inducing seal had driven me, Naruto would counter. Is it madness to know, to see clearly? Please allow me to elucidate. Naruto would never use those words, but this is Konohamaru's daydream, and if Ebisu forced Konohamaru to memorize the thesaurus, then Naruto would have to occasionally speak like he too memorized the thesaurus. Konohamaru would stand firm and reply, "Never, you only seek to confuse me, to cleft me away from my true purpose, to quantify all the factors, and to find the answer lest we all be driven mad from knowing that we will never know." It could be such an interesting experiment, to break free the truth from the grasp of ignorance, to tip the bowl and partake of the ramen of knowledge. I fear what may happen if we tip the vessel of knowledge, but the answers are so tempting. For science, boss, for no Konohamaru, for ramen, all 31 glorious flavors of ramen. I shall risk all to find the 32nd sacred flavor. Ramen gods, why hast thou forsaken me in my quest to sublimate all the goodness of your creation into my being? Naruto would let him find the answer, even it meant being killed and endure forced reincarnation. If only the old hag allowed Konohamaru to experiment. It was not his fault that giving the woodchuck summons power tools in order to answer the question, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if the woodchuck could chuck wood with power tools, would nearly destroy the forest around the village. The old hag should be happy that he was willing to do something intellectual like answering those important questions. All that was left was to find Peter Piper, Susie the shoe shine girl, the good cook, and the Mongol horde so that he could get a definitive number on the pecks of pickled peppers, the number of shoes shined, the number of cookies cooked, and the number of board that the bored Mongol horde hoards. And why do kids laugh at the rhymes? I was born on a pirate ship, pirate's private property, and she said she should sit. Inquiring minds like Konohamaru needed to solve these questions that not even Grandpa, the god of ninjutsu, could not solve. The answer was so simple. Find the one and test them to get the answer. The question will be answer, the problem solved, and the time he spent in Iruka sensei's classroom pondering these questions instead of doing shuriken throwing calculations would not be a waste of his effort, but rather the preparation to answering life's great questions. Naruto and Konohamaru had already answered the second greatest question of all, the trick to conquer all paperwork, and if you said shadow clones, that is not the answer. Simply give whomever asks the questions or brings up the problem the duty of solving it and doing all the paperwork associated with it, plus assign them another task since they were obviously not busy enough. After 2 or 3 times, no one would dare bring them any problems. Should there would only be one question, how to beat the girl's ultimate genjutsu and not end up being the pack mule when it comes time for them to go shopping.